Chapter 450. Borrowing the power of the profound sky treasure tree to fly. Lin Feng was in a pretty good mood. This meant that facing the suppression of the cloud forest realm, the profound sky treasure tree and jade capital mountain still had room to move. Because of the barrier of the realm's power, if Yin Mingwei and the rest wanted to pass through the void and leave the cloud forest realm to return to the divine land, or if Long Yi and the Heavenly Wolf Great Sages party wanted to return to Infinite Wasteland, it was all a dream. The major powers outside couldn't enter, and the people inside couldn't leave either. Looking at it now, if Lin Feng, who had Jade Capital Mountain with him, attacked with all his might, he had a chance to leave this dimensional realm. But he didn't plan to do so. He didn't come to this cloud forest realm for a day trip. So when he heard the system notification sound in his mind again, informing him that a Saraira was discovered nearby, Lin Feng was instantly delighted. Out of cautious considerations before, Lin Feng didn't make a move to capture that monk who walked together with the demon race. Originally, he was prepared to find an opportunity in the future. Who knew that the other party would actually bump into him again? Lin Feng followed the system notification and walked towards the depths of the white light tree sea. From far away, he felt a vast and vigorous magic power fluctuation trembling nonstop. This kind of magic power fluctuation is somewhat familiar. Lin Feng thought about it and had an answer in his heart. It's the Great Thunderclap Monastery's Infinite Light Buddhist Sutra of the Five-Direction Buddhist Sutra. Furthermore, it's the orthodox lineage. It's even more profound than the Buddhist scripture true meaning contained in that Buddhist statue rubbing I obtained back then. It's very likely that it's a Buddhist major power monk who cultivates the Amitabha Sutra. The Infinite Light Buddhist Sutra of the Five-Direction Buddhist Sutra was divided into three parts. The general principle Amitabha Sutra, the Buddhist scripture Great Light Mantra, as well as the 3,000 times illumination method of combat techniques. In the past, Lin Feng once obtained a Buddhist statue rubbing with Zhu Yi's profound fortune. That rubbing contained the true meaning of the Great Light Mantra. After Lin Feng and his disciple cultivated and comprehended it, there were many benefits to their cultivation. Zhu Yi even integrated the true meaning of light and completed the cultivation of forming a pill cauldron and forming the golden elixir. After mastering the Great Light Mantra, he can derive the various battle techniques of the 3,000 illumination technique. It's just that Lin Feng did not do that because it was not really necessary. But the lack of the general principle of the Amitabha Sutra made him a bit regretful. Speaking of which, of the 5 Tathagata Sutras, Lin Feng has already consecutively obtained the Mahavirokana Sutra, the Unmovable Tathagata Sutra, and the Infinite Light Tathagata Sutra, but the three sutras all lack the core general principles. Jade Capital Mountain was compatible with the spirit. Although it caused Lin Feng's channeling of dermic power to become sluggish, it also allowed him to further conceal his aura and tracks. Originally, he had the system to help conceal his tracks. Now, it was even easier for him to hide his tracks. He walked among the sea of trees of white light. His entire person seemed to be completely integrated into this world. He didn't leave a single trace. He slowly approached the place where the power of the Buddhist Dharma was vibrating. After walking for a while, voices came from the dense forest ahead. Yuan Xiang, did you deliberately lure this old monk here? An old voice sounded. Lin Feng stopped in his tracks. Through the dense foliage, he saw two people standing face to face not far ahead. One of them was dressed in gray. He had a spiky buzz cut and a gloomy expression. He was the Buddhist cultivator who had come with Qiong Qi and the other demons. The Saraira Lin Feng wanted was with him. And opposite this monk with the Dharma name of Yuan Xiang stood an old monk dressed in moon-white monk robes. His monk robes appeared old, but they were abnormally clean. He stood there, surrounded by ancient tree branches and leaves that flickered with white light. But looking at it, the old monk seemed even more dazzling than the surrounding white light. He was like the most primitive and purest light in the universe. Yuan Xiang said gloomily, Uncle Master Dade, disciple has offended you today. But in the future, Uncle Master will definitely understand disciples' painstaking efforts. Everything is for the blood feud of the great Thunderclap Monastery's destruction. Zen Master Dade's expression was calm. He looked at the gloomy expression on Yuan Xiang's face. Yuan Xiang's eyes were filled with hostility. He slowly shook his head. So now you want to betray your master and destroy your ancestors? First, you refine the Saraira of my eminent monk's remains into an enchanted item. Now, you've joined forces with the demons to lure this old monk here to ambush and kill me. Yuan Xiang said in a low voice, Yes, disciple knows that my sins are grave. I won't be able to enter paradise after death, and will definitely enter eternal hell. But even so, I must avenge the great Thunderclap Monastery. So what if you join forces with the demons? Yuan Xiang gritted his teeth and said, The great Thunderclap Monastery has educated thousands of people in the past. Every time there was a famine, the monks in the monastery would go out to do good deeds. They would give medicine, quell the floods, and save the people. But in the end, all the other forces in the human cultivation world joined forces to attack the great Thunderclap Monastery. They killed my Buddhist disciples and destroyed the ancient monastery in my later years. Even the Saraira of the elders in my sect was taken away. I hate it. Yuan Xiang's eyes were blood red and his voice was hoarse, like an angry beast wailing. What is the difference between this filthy divine land and Tianhuang mainland where the demons run amok? As long as I can make the culprits like Taishu Temple, Mount Shu Sword Sect, and the great Zhou dynasty pay with blood, so what if I join forces with the demons? Zen Master Dade's expression was calm, and his gaze was gentle. He looked at Yuan Xiang and sighed softly. What you're doing now is no different from those executioners. Yuan Xiang chuckled strangely. As long as I can avenge my sect, so what if I fall into hell? Zen Master Dade shook his head and said calmly, 1,000 years of cultivation is lost in a day. Yuan Xiang, you have also cultivated the wondrous techniques of the Buddhist sect for many years, but now you are only left with a heart full of hatred and obsession. Unfortunately, your obsession is not to avenge the great Thunderclap Monastery. Yuan Xiang's eyes widened and anger appeared on his face. What did you say? Zen Master Dade said silently. Your obsession is fear and regret. It is for your own peace of mind. Yuan Xiang stared at Zen Master Dade like a wounded beast. What about you, Uncle Master Dade? Back then, you took on the heavy responsibility of guarding the monastery, but you could only watch helplessly as the enemy stepped into the great Thunderclap Pure Land. Don't you hate it? Zen Master Dade looked up at the sky. Buddha is merciful and also has methods to subdue demons. But that is still an external path and not the foundation of the Buddhist Dharma. Because of hatred and obsession, you willingly threw yourself into hell and entered the demonic path. Even if you get what you want, you will still sink into the sea of bitterness and get further and further away from the shore. He looked at Yuan Xiang with pity and said slowly, Yuan Xiang, you made your own choice. It is not a mistake, but it is a wrong path that goes against the Buddhist Dharma. You are still you, but you are no longer a disciple of the Buddhist sect. Zen Master Dade patted his monk robes. Today, you helped the demon race to lure me here. Although I don't know your true intentions, I naturally won't let you get what you want. You have tarnished the Sarairas of the ancestors, so I will naturally take them back. Everyone's path is different, so we can only walk our own. Monk Yuan Xiang nodded. Uncle Master Dade, you are right. This is also the last time disciple will call you Uncle Master. It is time to reminisce about the old days. Yuan Xiang, you can leave now. A bestial roar rang out, and the Qiongqi that had chased after Lin Feng emerged from the ripples of white light. It stood beside Yuan Xiang and faced Zen Master Dade. The sound of wings flapping rang out in the air. Amidst the whistling wind, the golden-winged roc and the sun-swallowing eagle appeared behind Zen Master Dade, one on the left and one on the right. The three great demons stood in a triangular formation, surrounding the eminent Buddhist monk in the middle. Zen Master Dade faced the encirclement of the three great sages of the demon race. His expression was calm. but his gaze also became incomparably solemn. Besides Xiongqi, is there also the golden-winged rock and the sun-swallowing eagle? He looked at the golden-winged rock. The one who refined and fused with this medium-class worlds, what was the golden rock great sage? A cold light flashed in the golden-winged rock's sharp eyes. You will know very soon. With a flap of its wings, tens of thousands of golden lights flew toward Zen Master Dade. Zen Master Dade looked at Yuan Xiang, who was retreating, and finally sighed. He retracted his gaze, put his palms together, and chanted the name of Buddha. His entire body suddenly shone brightly, and he fought with the golden-winged rock. Don't waste time. The sun-swallowing eagle let out a shrill cry, and black gas spread out from its body, directly devouring most of Zen Master Dade's Buddha light. Meanwhile, Xiongqi also roared and joined the battle. The three great sages of the demon race joined the battle together, immediately suppressing Zen Master Dade. After the three great demons appeared, Lin Feng slowly retreated. He did not need to see to know the old monk's outcome. From the moment he was tricked into entering the Cloud Forest realm, the outcome was already destined. With the same realm of cultivation, facing the siege of three great demons by himself. Moreover, in an environment like the Cloud Forest realm that would restrict his cultivation, defeat was something that was bound to happen sooner or later. However, if the other party wanted to capture him alive, it would also take some effort. I remember that Old Wolf said that the number must be made up of living people. It's just that, what exactly does the Golden Rock Great Sage want to do? As Lin Feng thought about it, he circled to another direction. There, Monk Yuan Xiang was already far away from the battle circle of the four essence spirit level powerhouses. His expression was gloomy, and there was a faint sense of loss. He stood there blankly for a long time before he said in a low voice, "Yes, Uncle Master Dade, you're right. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that the enemy who destroyed my great thunderclap pure land in the past was too strong. I regret guarding the pagoda forest back then. I saw the sorrow iron tree being destroyed, and the enemy rushing into the pagoda forest like a tidal wave, but I didn't have the courage to protect the pagoda forest with my life. In the end, I escaped with a few relics." Monk Yuan Xiang let out a deep breath. I told myself that by escaping, I can at least protect a portion of the sect elder's relics from falling into the enemy's hands. But actually, it's just an excuse. I'm afraid. I want to escape. I don't dare to face the enemy. I've overcome the difficulties of life and death. I've passed the void lightning tribulation, but when I face the world-destroying attacks of the powerhouses, I still can't suppress the fear. I feel ashamed. I feel regret. I desperately want to do something. I want to do something for the great Thunderclap Monastery. I want to make up for my cowardice in the past. I want to kill the enemy who makes me afraid. Yuan Xiang's eyes gradually turned blood red. Even if I have to pay any price, even if I have to resort to unscrupulous means. A voice suddenly sounded behind him. Buddhist cultivation is about seeing one's heart and understanding one's true self. It's not a bad thing to be aware of the flaws in one's heart, but you don't want to strengthen your spirit and will from the root. Instead, you only want to solve the superficial problems. No wonder your sect elders say that you've gone astray. Yuan Xiang was shocked. He quickly turned around and saw Lin Feng looking at him calmly. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Hand over the relics you have." Chapter 451. When Yuan Xiang saw Lin Feng, he could not help but be shocked. Almost instinctively, his body lit up with Buddhist light. Within the Buddhist light, there was a faint shadow of a Bodhi tree swaying continuously. A solemn and majestic aura spread out. As the branches of the Bodhi tree swayed, Buddhist chants rang out. Lin Feng could only smell the scent of sandalwood. Thousands of light waves swept towards Lin Feng. The light waves faintly condensed into a dazzling light screen in midair, about to cover Lin Feng. At this moment, because Lin Feng's spirit contained Yujing Mountain, his mana was sluggish and his cultivation was rapidly declining. It would be very difficult for him to face the late Yuan Xiang. If he used his sword, It would be like using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. However, this was not a problem for Lin Feng. He smiled slightly and tapped his brow lightly with his finger. A small black, the size of a grain of rice, flew out from between his brows and grew in the air. In an instant, it turned into an incomparably huge green hall that was as grand as the divine palace of a celestial emperor. The green hall sat on a thick black foundation, deep and distant. The hall's door was pushed open, and a tall, bronze-skinned youth walked out slowly. He stood at the entrance of the hall, silently looking at Yuan Xiang in front of him. It was Lin Feng's cyan tree clone. The cyan tree clone looked at Yuan Xiang and smiled. He controlled the Kunpeng Hall to descend from the sky, pressing down on Yuan Xiang. As if Mount Tai was crushing an egg, Yuan Xiang did not even have time to use his Buddhist Dharma before he was suppressed by the Kunpeng Hall. The thousands of Buddhist lights all dissipated. Yuan Xiang still wanted to struggle. He shouted with his eyes wide open. A ball of bright golden light flew out from his arms. It was a total of 16 relics, arranged in a formation in the air. Sabodhi perfect treasure light. These 16 relics emitted balls of Buddhist light. Within the Buddhist light, the shadow of a Bodhi tree appeared clearly. It emitted the profound Buddhist concept of wisdom and enlightenment. The light shadow of the Bodhi tree almost solidified. It rose from the ground below Kunpeng Hall, wanted to lift it up. The profound concept of energy had rather obtained the true essence of perfection in the Buddhist technique. It was flawless and without the slightest flaw, and it was a complete whole. It carried the great aspiration and boldness of guiding the people of the world to the other side. The Taishu clone chuckled and formed a seal with both hands. The appearance of the Kunpeng Hall suddenly changed. The originally green hall suddenly became the same color as the black foundation beneath it, and the aura of power within the entire hall became extremely heavy. Even the Bodhi tree summoned by the monk Yuan Xiang with 16 relics could not withstand such a powerful pressure from the Kunpeng Hall. It was like fragile porcelain placed under a mountain, instantly shattering into powder. Lin Feng shrugged his shoulders and put away Kunpeng Hall. He captured monk Yuan Xiang and immediately left this place. Almost at the same time, Lin Feng's attack had alerted the Golden Rock Great Sage. If he did not immediately escape and hide his tracks again, he would be discovered immediately. Not far away, the 3 demon race great sages who were besieging Zen Master Dade also discovered Lin Feng's existence at the first moment. They were all shocked. We didn't find his whereabouts at all before. How did this person do it? The Golden Rock Great Sage, who was in the center of the world, was also slightly surprised by this question. His huge body shook slightly, and his sharp eyes flashed. Oh, interesting. Beside him, a golden-winged rock asked, "My Emperor, who is that person?" The Golden Rock Great Sage said, "Based on his strength, it is similar to the power of the Kunpeng." The golden-winged rock beside him pondered and said, "There is no Kunpeng among the demon race that entered this world. Moreover, after you merged with the medium-class worlds, to suppress it, unless it is a Kunpeng of the undying demon soul realm, it cannot move freely." Some time ago, the resurrection of the ancient Kunpeng failed. Half of his remains were brought back by the Kunpeng race, while the other half fell into the hands of a human. Slowly, the Golden Rock Great Sage said, "The master of the Celestial Gate, Lin Feng. That's him." The Golden Crow Great Sage was also suppressed by him. The Golden Winged Rock said, "It is said that his cultivation is unfathomable, and his origin is a mystery. Until now, no one has been able to figure out his background." The Golden Rock Great Sage said calmly, "It is okay. Since he is in this medium-class world, there will be a time to meet him. Tianluan, you should also go and capture the prey. We can leave the master of the Celestial Gate alone for now. We will deal with him later." The golden-winged rock named Tianluan hesitated for a moment, then lowered his head and said, "My Emperor, if we accept the Qiongqi race like this, we must guard against their retaliation. The Qiongqi race is extremely evil by nature. In their consciousness, there is no concept of loyalty and honor it all. They even regard betrayal as beauty. Even in their own race, there is often vicious competition for the position of clan master. Such a race is really not worthy of trust. Although Golden Rock Tianluan's words were not harsh, he was questioning the Golden Rock Great Sage's decision. The Golden Rock Great Sage was not angry. He just said lightly, "Tianluan, it is not that the Qiongqi race does not have the concept of loyalty. It is just that this race has always been loyal to one thing, and that is great power. Therefore, under my command, they will not have the chance to betray me, because I am strong enough that they cannot even think of betraying me." His tone was calm and gentle, without the slightest arrogance. It was as if he was talking about something that could not be more normal. It was not a bluff, but a natural confidence and bearing born from his own great power. Golden Rock Tianluan bowed his head slightly and said, "Yes, my emperor." He flapped his wings and flew high, leaving the center of the sea of white trees. A black shadow brushed past him and flew toward the Golden Rock Great Sage. It was the Qiongqi race. Golden Rock Tianluan did not stop and flew all the way into the sea of trees. Qiongqi race landed in front of the Golden Rock Great Sage and said with a ferocious smile, "The first one." He opened his mouth and spat out a black ball of light with a person sitting in it. This person looked a little listless. The starlight around his body was extinguished and constantly fluctuated, resisting the invasion of the demon power in the black ball of light. He had come with Lin Feng and the others. He was the primordial spirit offering of the Great Qin dynasty, Dao Master Xingdou. When Dao Master Xingdou saw the huge golden rock that seemed to have become the incarnation of the whole world, his eyes suddenly filled with despair. It turned out to be this great demon. The Golden Rock Great Sage glanced at Dao Master Xingdou and nodded slightly. His left eye lit up with a glimmer of light, and a small black dot flew out of the glimmer. The black dot kept growing and turning into a disk with a diameter of hundreds of miles. The disk was covered with simple and mysterious lines. The lines crisscrossed and formed a huge groove in the center of the disk. The surface of the disk outside the groove was divided into 9 squares of the same size. Before Dao Master Xingdou had time to speak, he fell into one of the squares. The black ball of light formed by Qiongqi race's demon power disappeared. Dao Master Xingdou wanted to take the opportunity to escape, but a golden brilliance emerged in the square and fixed him in place. Dao Master Xingdou directly unfolded his primordial spirit incarnation and turned into a bright galaxy, but he could not escape the shackles of the golden brilliance. The Golden Rock Great Sage let out a long, loud, and strange whistle. Under the distortion of the bright galaxy in the golden light, he returned to the human form of Dao Master Xingdou. He could not continue to manifest the primordial spirit incarnation. Dao Master Xingdou showed a pained expression. The golden light that imprisoned him rose into the sky and turned into a thick beam of light. In the blink of an eye, the color of the beam of light gradually changed from pure gold to colorful, flashing with 7-colored brilliance. It looked extremely demonic. In the center of the beam of light, there was a faint flame that kept jumping. This beam of light and the flame in it could be seen by everyone in the Cloud Forest realm. Lin Feng had just suppressed Yuan Xiang and obtained his 16 Sariris. Then he saw the pillar of light light up. The direction was right at the center of the sea of white light trees. He lightly furrowed his brows. That pillar of light and flames give me an ominous feeling. While thinking, Lin Feng suddenly felt a strong fluctuation of Dharma power appear nearby. But it was not the 3 great demons who had besieged Monk Dade before. The terrifying power was from a great demon at the 2nd realm of the immortal demon soul. The treasure light flashed in front of him, and a pearl rushed out of the dense forest of the white light tree sea. The pearl was only in shape, but it was not really solid. Instead, it looked like a cloud that had gathered and formed. The cloud suddenly opened, revealing a figure. It was the successor of Taishu Temple, Yin Mingwei. Behind Yin Mingwei a violent wave of demonic power swept through the dense foliage, and a huge mutated beast rushed out. Lin Feng looked at the mutated beast, only to see that its body was like that of a dragon, but had no scales. Instead, it was covered in bird feathers. The wings on its back spread out, covering the sky and the sun. It had the head of an eagle and the body of a dragon. As its four claws moved, the wind and thunder stirred. Its aura was astonishing. See Dragon Hawk? Lin Feng immediately recognized the origin of this demon. It was a capable subordinate of the Golden Rock Great Sage, belonging to the Sea Dragon Hawk race. It was a great demon at the second realm of the immortal demon soul realm, and it was famous in the entire infinite wilderness. Looking at Yin Mingyue again, she was really impressive. She was not afraid facing the Sea Dragon Hawk at the second realm of the immortal demon soul realm with the cultivation of the first realm of the immortal demon soul realm. She shed her human body and revealed her primordial spirit incarnation, which is a mass of black and white blended yin and yang energy. With the help of the magic treasure Heavenly Exquisite Jade, the yin and yang energy that Yin Mingyue transformed into rolled in midair. Even though it was suppressed by the domain power of the Cloud Forest realm, it shifted the void and turned into a yin-yang chaos hole, which directly swallowed the Sea Dragon Hawk. Black and white blended and rotated, crushing the Sea Dragon Hawk that fell into it like a millstone. The Sea Dragon Hawk opened its claws and directly grabbed Yin Mingyue's magic power, tearing it apart and instantly destroying the small world formed by the yin-yang chaos hole. Reverse yin and yang, reversal of two poles. Yin Mingyue let out a long cry, and the yin and yang energy that was torn apart by the Sea Dragon Hawk suddenly revolved in the opposite direction, turning back into the chaos hole. Then, it took the initiative to explode, temporarily stopping the Sea Dragon Hawk's attack momentum. If it were any other time, Yin Mingyue might fight with the Sea Dragon Hawk, but very quickly, a Qiangqi and a golden rock rushed out from the sea of white light trees. The power of the medium-sized world was also unceasingly suppressing her, and she did not dare to stay any longer. She said to Lin Feng, "Go." Before she finished, intense demonic power waves came from another direction. Then a white-clothed, barefooted Long Yi and a gorgeous woman dressed in red rushed out from the sea of trees together. Following closely behind them, led by the great sage Qiangqi, there were a total of 6 demon race great sages in pursuit. When Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue saw them, they all revealed expressions of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 452. Whether it was Yin Mingyue or Long Yi, the relationship between Lin Feng and them had always been rather subtle. They were allies, but also potential enemies. While cooperating, they were also on guard against each other. They often dug pits together to bury others, but if one of them was slightly careless and didn't keep up with the rhythm, then they would be dragged into the pit together. As for Yin Mingyue and Long Yi, that was even more purely old enemies. Strictly speaking, the only time they cooperated with tacit understanding was that battle to the death over 10 years ago. The result was that both suffered heavy losses and almost died together. But it was also because of that battle that both of them broke through their bottlenecks, and their cultivation rose to a higher level. It was clearly a matter of mutual benefit, but they cooperated so awkwardly. The relationship between the two could be imagined. In that battle back then, if one side was slightly weaker, then the strong naturally wouldn't mind completely getting rid of the weak. Except, now that they were in the Cloud Forest world at the same time and had fallen into the Golden Rock Great Sage's hunting ground, everyone had become prey together. There was practically no need for any communication. Yin Mingyue and Long Yi joined hands to deal with a common enemy first. Great Sage Qiangqi spat out black light from his mouth. Long Yi frowned slightly and lightly flicked her 5 fingers. Balls of deep blue light met the black light and blocked it. But that black light kept seeping into the deep blue light screen. It didn't dispel the deep blue light screen, but rather rapidly turned the deep blue light screen into black. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng secretly nodded. Qiangqi's innate divine ability is indeed troublesome. It's the same as the true blood river water, specializing in polluting the opponent's mana or demonic energy. It's extremely vile. Long Ye's deep blue light screen was polluted by Qiangqi's black light and turned into a black light screen, instead sweeping towards Long Ye. The originally flickering white light sea of trees instantly seemed to have turned from day to night. The sun couldn't be seen, only endless darkness remained. Long Yi didn't have any intention of resisting. Instead, she turned around and, after brushing past Yin Mingwei, she faced the great sage sea dragon eagle in another direction. Yin Mingwei gave up on the sea dragon eagle and spun the great sky jade in her hand. Balls of cloud qi first blocked Qiangqi. The white cloud formed by the heavenly exquisite jade instantly turned into a vast expanse of whiteness. Its surface area was not very large. At least, it could not compare to the sea of clouds that Lin Feng had seen when the great Zhou dynasty's essence, soul, consecrator, cloud, riding immortal, had turned into. However, these white clouds did not dissipate. They stood in front of Yin Mingwei and blocked the path of great sage Qiangqi's black light screen. The two sides pressed against each other, neither giving way. The white cloud could not destroy the black light screen, and the black light screen could not advance any further. The two sides directly divided the world in front of them into two parts, black and white. What caught Lin Feng's attention was that the Qiangqi demon tribe, which had always been good at polluting other people's mana, could not pollute the white mist transformed by the heavenly jade. Yin Mingyue once again revealed her primordial spirit incarnation. She transformed into yin and yang qi and rushed into the white clouds. The white clouds suddenly rolled violently, and the clouds and mist dispersed to both sides. A tall and majestic palace emerged from the white clouds, as if the nine heavens' immortal palace had descended to the mortal world. Great sky, the center of the sky, the master of the four directions, the residence of the celestial emperor. The surrounding sea of white light trees were shaking and breaking, and the thick branches and leaves were also retreating. The white cloud immortal palace was magnificent, even larger than Lin Feng's Kunpeng Hall. As soon as the white cloud immortal palace appeared, great sage Qiangqi's black light screen immediately shattered. Great sage Qiangqi let out a shrill howl, and a strange rune on his forehead flashed with light. His entire body was enveloped by a huge black ball of light, and it collided with the white cloud immortal palace formed by the heavenly jade. One black and one white light shook the heaven and earth. They clashed again, and the black mist and light scattered in all directions. Violent energy shock waves spread to the surroundings, sweeping everything. And on the other side, Long Yi had blocked the sea dragon hawk for Yin Mingwei. Her eyes were covered with a layer of strange blue light. She put her hands together, and a blue ball of light appeared in front of her. Then, Long Yi flicked her fingers lightly, and in an instant, tens of thousands of talismans were shot into the blue ball of light. The sea dragon hawk that had pounced in front of her immediately stopped and stared solemnly at Long Yi. It blurted out, "Book of Primordial Demon." Long Yi didn't answer, but the blue ball of light in front of her suddenly became dark and gloomy. But such a ball, with a diameter of less than a foot, gave people a feeling of incomparable heaviness. That heaviness wasn't something that could be described by simple weight. It wasn't something that could be described by simple matter, but the combination of endless space, long years, and the wills of tens of thousands of living beings, the creation of a universe, and the heaviness of a world. Lin Feng looked at the ball of light in front of Long Yi, and also revealed a slightly shocked expression. This was the first time he had seen Long Yi make a move with his own eyes. The Book of Primordial Demon was indeed extraordinary, creating a small world that was even more complete than Lin Feng's small world of the heavens. It was a bit similar to the world formed when Lin Feng, Mount Yujing, the profound sky treasure tree, and the cyclic violet qi merged into one, driving Mount Yujing to collide with it with full force. Although there was still a lot of difference in power, in terms of concept, it was the same as Lin Feng's and was already infinitely close to the true world of creation. In that dark and gloomy ball of light, time seemed to be rapidly reversed, and all living beings retreated back to the state of the ignorant universe before the primordial world was formed. Immediately afterwards, it began to explode, and the power of creation and annihilation madly blasted towards the sea dragon hawk. Whether it was Lin Feng or Zhu Yi, they both used their own mana to create a small world. After trapping the enemy, the small world would shatter and simulate the annihilation of the world, thereby killing and injuring the trapped enemy. And this time, Long Yi shockingly didn't need to first trap the enemy in the world. Instead, she directly obtained the power to simulate the annihilation of the world, and then controlled it, attacking the enemy with her own will. The divine ability of the great Tao recorded in the Book of Primordial Demon, Primordial Annihilation Demonic Light. Facing Long Ye's attack, even with the sea dragon hawk's cultivation of the second level of the indestructible demon soul, it didn't dare to be careless. With a long cry, its appearance suddenly changed. All the feathers on its body retreated, and what replaced it was a layer of shiny, pitch-black, crystal-like scales. Its head also changed, directly changing from the original eagle-like head to the appearance of a dragon's head. With a sky-shaking dragon roar, the sea dragon hawk completely shed its bird-like characteristics. From the outside, it already looked completely like a true dragon. As Lin Ming's body circled in the air, the faint sound of crashing waves could be heard. The surrounding void was shattered by him, completely changing shape. Endless waves tumbled about. The sea dragon hawk had transformed into a black crystal sea dragon, bringing with it endless blue waves as it descended into this dimensional realm. Facing Long Ye's primordial annihilation demonic light, the black crystal-like scales on the black crystal sea dragon's body trembled together, and all kinds of auras instantly went berserk. His own demonic chi, the spiritual chi of the endless waves, the spiritual chi of the cloudy forest world itself, and even Lin Feng and the others at the side felt their own spiritual chi tremble. All of the energy gathered together, as if the end of the world had arrived, triggering a tsunami that could destroy the world, meeting Long Ye's primordial annihilation demonic light. The intensity of this collision was even greater than the battle between Yin Mingyue and Great Sage Xiongqi just now. Lin Feng nodded repeatedly as he watched. First tier primordial spirit and first tier undying demon soul cultivation, fighting against the second tier undying demon soul great demon without losing at all. They really can be called peerless beauties. However, to Great Sage Qiongqi and the Sea Dragon Hawk, this battle was not a battle between experts, but the most primitive and bloody hunt. Therefore, they had no intention of fighting alone. The surrounding demon race great sages immediately surrounded them, clearly wanting to gang up on them. Lin Feng frowned. Before figuring out what the Golden Rock Great Sage was doing, he really had no interest in tangling with Great Sage Qiongqi and the Sea Dragon Hawk here. Therefore, he lightly pinched his forehead, and the cyclic purple chi spread out. Yin Mingyue and Long Yi looked at each other, and with great tacit understanding, they decisively rushed into the vast purple chi, while Great Sage Qiongqi and the Sea Dragon Hawk were forced away, and the other demon race great sages hadn't surrounded them yet. Lin Feng adopted a tacit attitude towards their actions. Right now, the Golden Rock Great Sage and the other demon race were the main enemies. Yin Mingyue and Long Yi, this pair of old enemies, could even run away like a mouse to be a cat's bridesmaid, so he naturally wouldn't mind temporarily joining forces. Lin Feng looked at the gorgeous red-clothed woman who appeared with Long Yi, and his expression was somewhat strange. This demon power fluctuation, is it that ochre-clothed old woman? Although he was a little surprised, this gorgeous red-clothed woman who looked no more than 20 or 30 years old was indeed that doddering and kind old woman just now. At this moment, she was facing the siege of two demon race great sages. Unhurriedly, she danced gracefully, turning into a gorgeous red shadow that shuttled through the space. Layers of colorful mist spread out, pervading the sea of white light trees. Lin Feng shockingly saw that any ancient tree branches and leaves that came into contact with the colorful mist immediately dimmed and then withered. It was as if they had been poisoned. That was not a simple life, nor was it a simple ancient tree. Under the control of the Golden Rock Great Sage, it had fused with the entire medium-class world and was almost equivalent to a part of the world. But now, facing the colorful mist, it was actually continuously withering. This meant that a corner of the world was continuously collapsing. Such a poisonous mist was truly terrifying. The red-clothed woman turned her head to look at Lin Feng and smiled brightly. "Please leave with little Yi. I will bring up the rear. I thank sect leader Lin in advance." "What rear? We can clearly leave together." Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. "You're purposely giving yourself away." He suddenly thought of something. "Wait, could it be?" Lin Feng frowned slightly and didn't say anything more. The mysterious sky treasure tree emitted colorful light, breaking through the void. The cyclic purple chi swept up Yin, Mingyue, and Long Yi, and they escaped together, charging out of the encirclement. Great Sage Qiongqi and the Sea Dragon Hawk wanted to stop them, but they were blocked by the red-clothed woman. The last scene in Lin Feng's line of sight was that the red-clothed woman changed her appearance once again. Her gorgeous and flirtatious face suddenly became ordinary and unremarkable. Her red clothes also became white. Her appearance and age suddenly changed from looking 20 to 30 years old to 40-something years old. In the blink of an eye, that gorgeous red-clothed woman became an ordinary middle-aged woman dressed in white. But the demonic power around her body was even more terrifying, and the colorful mist floating out of her body also became white mist. Chapter 453. Compared to the colorful mist from before, the current white mist was very inconspicuous. But when Lin Feng faced the white mist, he immediately sounded the alarm in his heart, feeling a strong sense of danger. Even if he was not the target of the white mist, he still felt his heart palpitate. And when the great demons saw the white mist, their hair all stood up. Even Great Sage Qiongqi and Sea Dragon Hawk, who were at the second tier of the undying demon soul realm, had solemn expressions. This was the last scene in Lin Feng's vision before he escaped. The light and shadow in front of him changed, and he had already escaped into the void and disappeared. When Lin Feng stopped again, there was still a dense sea of white light trees in front of him. He put away Mount Yujing and the treasure tree purple gas on the mountain. Although this kind of power could break through the suppression of the Cloudy Forest Realm's world power, it also made it easier for Golden Rock Great Sage to lock onto his position. Yin Mingyue and Long Yi were both enveloped by Lin Feng's cyclic purple gas previously, and did not witness the scene of him putting Mount Yujing into his divine soul. At this critical moment, they did not dare to use their spiritual power to investigate, and they obediently let Lin Feng carry them, not making any rash moves. But both of them were undoubtedly very shocked. After Golden Rock Great Sage took control of the Cloudy Forest Realm's world will, under the suppression, even powerhouses like Sword Venerable Guan Chong, Shizong Yue, and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage could not move freely, but Lin Feng did not seem to be affected. But both of them suppressed their bewilderment and did not show it. That was Lady Umbrella just now, right? Yin Mingyue lightly tucked her hair behind her ear and looked at Long Yi with a smile that was not a smile. The most mysterious demon race Great Sage under the Enchantress. She has always lived in seclusion, and I did not expect her to appear in this Cloudy Forest realm this time. Lin Feng looked at her. Lady Umbrella? Yin Mingyue nodded. That's right. The Enchantress's background is mysterious. Even our Taishu Temple does not know her race's background. She has no kin, but there are many powerhouses under her command and many great demons. Some great demons either fight for the Enchantress or guard a region and rule over tens of thousands of demons. They are all famous demon powerhouses in the entire Tianhuang continent. For example, heavenly wolf great sage. His fame is not below the demon race 10 sages. Yin Mingwei glanced at Long Yi and continued. But there are also some demon race experts who are abnormally low-key. Their origins are also extremely mysterious. They live under the protection of the heavenly charm great sage and live in seclusion. It is very difficult for outsiders to know the details. So, it is still unknown how strong the forces under the enchantress are. But as long as they exist, there will inevitably be some rumors. For example, that Lady Umbrella. From what I know, although she is low-key and mysterious, she is highly regarded by the enchantress. She has very high attainments in both medicine and poison. It is just that she has always stayed behind the scenes, and it is the first time that she has stepped out into the limelight. Long Yi had been listening quietly the whole time, and at this time she laughed lowly. Anne was just too quiet and moved. How could it be as exaggerated as Sister Yen said? She laughed softly and said, "Actually, Anne often goes out to gather herbs alone, but she is low-key, and not many people know about it." Silently, Lin Feng said, "This Lady Umbrella is a plant demon?" Long Yi nodded, while Yin Mingwei, who was at the side, said, "Previously, there was news that Lady Umbrella was a mushroom that cultivated into a demon and eventually attained the Great Sage realm. Just now, I saw her battle style, and it seems that the rumors were true." Lin Feng agreed with Yin Mingwei and thought, "So it is a poisonous mushroom." Some mushrooms are poisonous, and some are not. Generally speaking, the brighter the color, the more poisonous it is. In the beginning, when Lady Umbrella transformed into a human form, she was an inconspicuous old lady in ochre clothes, and her demon power was very calm. But when she transformed into a beautiful young woman in red clothes, she could use the poisonous fog magical power. The poison was so strong that even primordial spirit powerhouses had to be careful and did not dare to come into contact with it. But in fact, some mushrooms that looked plain were also very poisonous, even more so than those colorful poisonous mushrooms. When Lady Umbrella transformed into an ordinary middle-aged woman in white clothes, the white poisonous fog that she emitted was even stronger. Even Great Sage Qiongqi and Sea Dragon Eagle, who were at the second tier of the undying demon soul realm, had to be careful. But Lin Feng frowned slightly. He had noticed a problem earlier, and that was that Lady Umbrella could change her battle power by changing her form. The white-clothed form was undoubtedly the strongest, but there were advantages and disadvantages. Lin Feng believed that Lady Umbrella could not maintain this form for a long time, and although the power of the white poisonous fog was strong, there was definitely a limit to it. Either the quantity was limited, or it was a huge burden on Lady Umbrella's own demon power. The red-clothed form was slightly weaker, but it should be Lady Umbrella's most commonly used battle form. Then, what about the ochre old lady's appearance? Looking at the situation, that was the form that Lady Umbrella usually maintained. Lin Feng recalled that although Lady Umbrella's demon power seemed to be the weakest of the three forms, she was the most relaxed when facing the suppression of the world's will in the sea of white light trees. Among them, in terms of cultivation, Heavenly Wolf Great Sage was the highest. In terms of foundation, Long Yi and Lady Umbrella were both at the first tier of the undying demon soul realm, and were both demons from plants. However, when facing the suppression of the sea of white light trees, they were not as relaxed as Lady Umbrella. And when Lady Umbrella was fighting with the demon race experts on Golden Rock Great Sage's side, be it in the red-clothed form or the white-clothed form, they were both severely suppressed by the domain power of the Cloudy Forest realm. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, and a guess gradually formed in his mind. The form of that ochre old lady should also have something unique. Thinking of Lady Umbrella's action of staying behind to bring up the rear, Lin Feng felt that there was something strange about it. Yin Mingwei had previously mentioned that this Lady Umbrella had always kept a low profile under the Enchantress's command. She had always been active behind the scenes, and had never stepped onto the stage. She was also not good at fighting. She must have a special purpose for entering the Cloudy Forest realm this time. Lin Feng turned to look at Long Yi. The white-clothed girl was currently sitting on an ancient tree branch with a relaxed expression, her bare feet swinging lightly in mid-air, looking extremely relaxed. Seeing that Lin Feng was looking at her, Ling Yi laughed softly. "And we'll be fine. Golden Rock Great Sage can't bear to kill her just like that. To the entire infinite wilderness and vast land, Ant is very precious. But don't forget that Golden Rock is busy trying to make up the numbers," Lin Feng said indifferently. He looked at Long Yi. "Now, is it convenient for you to tell me what exactly Golden Rock Great Sage is planning?" Hearing Lin Feng's question, Yin Minghua also looked towards Long Yi. She similarly doesn't know what the Golden Rock Sage is planning. Even though the Void Temple pays close attention to the movements of the demon race in the vast Heaven Wasteland continent, but in terms of the grasp of mutual intelligence between the demon races, Long Ye's side is naturally much clearer. Long Ye laughed. "Uncle Master isn't here, of course I can say it." Lin Feng curled his lips in his heart. How could he not see that although Heavenly Wolf Great Sage was Long Ye's Uncle Master, if Long Yi really wanted to do something, she might not necessarily care about Heavenly Wolf Great Sage's opinion. Long Yi glanced at Lin Feng, then turned to look at Yin Minghua. Slowly, she said, "Golden Rock Great Sage is very likely planning something. To be precise, it's not a real object with a material form, but a magical Dharma spell." "Dharma spell?" Lin Feng and Yin Minghua looked at each other, neither of them making a sound. Golden Rock Great Sage was already an unparalleled great demon at the third realm of the indestructible demon soul. He had earth-shattering power and naturally grasped countless powerful magical Dharma spells. Not to mention that he also had the racial talent of the golden-winged Great Pung race. Even the enchantress who cultivated the Book of Primordial Demon could not say that he could win against him. What kind of magical Dharma spell would such a strong practitioner seek? Lin Feng's heart suddenly sank. Wait, according to the information I've seen before, the Book of Primordial Demon is the second volume of the demon race's supreme classics, Heavenly Tao Demon Scriptures. Because the first volume was lost, Book of Primordial Demon is publicly recognized as the #1 secret technique of the demon race. To be stronger than the Book of Primordial Demon, wouldn't that be, as expected? Long Yi silently said, "Golden Rock Great Sage. What he wants is Yudu Minghua." Yin Minghua's expression suddenly became solemn. It was obvious that she knew what Yudu Minghua was. Lin Feng had never heard of Yudu Minghua before, but he didn't enter the system to check. That was because he knew what Yudu meant. Over 4,000 years ago, in that tragic race war between the Divine Land and Heaven Wasteland, the one who fell in the end was the last generation of the demon race's sacred emperor. People called her Yu Wang, and her great name was Heavenly Sea Yudu. Yudu race was an extremely mysterious demon race, but it was also incomparably terrifying. Back then, this branch of demon race had grasped all the Heavenly Tao demon scriptures, including the first volume, and ruled over Heaven Wasteland. However, in the battle back then, Yu Wang's celestial sea fell, and the rest of the Yudu race vanished without a trace. As a result, the first volume of Heavenly Tao Demon Scriptures was lost in Heaven Primordial World. After the battle, countless strong practitioners of the demon race, including the enchantress, hoped to find the whereabouts of the Yudu race, but after 4,000 years, they still had no results. After Yu Wang's celestial sea fell, there was no new generation of demon sacred emperor, and in a certain sense, it had a lot to do with this situation. Yudu Minghua, without asking, was the almighty divine art that Yu Wang's celestial sea had executed back then. Even though this demon sacred emperor had died, the human cultivation world had paid an incomparably huge price for his fall. Back then, the sect master of Mount Shu Sword Sect and the abbot of Great Thunderclap Monastery had both died in battle. The temple master of Taishu Temple had retired from seclusion due to heavy injuries, and more than half of the Grand Elders had died. As the main battlefield, Great Thunderclap Monastery was almost completely destroyed. At that time, The Great Zhou Empire was only a small country at the borders of Great Qin, and the power of the Great Qin Empire far surpassed what it was now. However, in that battle, the Emperor of Qin had died in battle, and the imperial family had suffered heavy casualties. Only then did the aristocratic families of Great Qin dynasty have the chance to rise up, and the influence it had caused had lasted until today. Lin Feng only needed to look at Yin Mingyue's expression to roughly know what level this divine art was at, especially if it had fallen into the hands of an extremely powerful great demon like Golden Rock Great Sage. How terrifying would it have been? Silently, Long Yi said, "We received news that Golden Rock Great Sage had unintentionally found a side palace of Yu Huang in Heaven Wasteland. Even though there was nothing left in the side palace, it was said that Golden Rock Great Sage had unearthed clues to Yudu Minghua." Chapter 454. Hearing that Golden Rock Great Sage had grasped a clue to Yudu Netherflower, Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue were both silent. Long Yi continued to say, he used this clue as a basis to research a kind of secret method to make Yudu Netherflower reappear in the world. The exact details aren't clear, but rumors say that he needs to sacrifice 9 strong practitioners of Primordial Spirit Realm or Undying Demon Soul Realm to refine Yudu Netherflower. Long Yi turned her head to look at the center of the sea of trees. There, a pillar of colorful light rushed into the sky, and the flames inside the pillar burned fiercely. That's the first one. Before she even finished speaking, another pillar of light rushed into the sky. Long Yi said leisurely, "This is the second one. And it shouldn't be that fast. Someone else has been captured." Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue silently looked at the center of the sea of trees in the distance. The second pillar of light quickly changed from gold to 5 colors, and inside the pillar of light, a bundle of flames jumped and lit up, intimidating people's hearts and souls. "Maybe it's Celestial Wolf." Lin Feng shrugged his shoulders and answered indifferently. Long Yi also smiled leisurely. "It's also possible." Lin Feng turned his head around and looked at Long Yi calmly. "Let's not talk about whether he will succeed or not. If he really succeeds, the ones who should be the most nervous should be your master and disciple, right?" Heroes rose up in Heaven Wasteland Vastland, and the Enchantress's power was the strongest. His aura swallowed the mountains and rivers, and he was considered to have the greatest hope of becoming the next generation of the demon race's sacred emperor. And Golden Rock Great Sage was one of the few great demons that could pose a threat to the Enchantress's position. Golden Rock Great Sage had subdued the Qiongqi demon race and gained a huge helping hand. He even obtained a huge killing weapon like 9 Glory Heaven-Shattering Formation, so his power had already increased explosively. If he was allowed to grasp Yudu Netherflower again, it wouldn't be long before the situation between him and the Enchantress would be flipped. To the human cultivation world, Golden Rock Great Sage's increase in power was no doubt a huge hidden threat, but to the Enchantress, this huge threat was no longer hidden, but right in front of him. Long Yi faintly smiled, tilting her head. "Yeah, that's why we came." Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue looked at each other. Although they did not speak, they could see the same meaning in each other's eyes. The Long Night trio entering the Cloud Forest realm this time was not just for the 9 luminaries heaven-shattering formation. From the beginning, they knew that the Golden Rock Great Sage was also in the Cloud Forest realm. It was just that this way, Long Yi, the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, and Lady Umbrella's lineup was obviously not enough. If there were no follow-up arrangements, they would be like sheep entering a tiger's den. Since that was the case, where was the Enchantress's backup plan? Lin Feng looked at Long Yi. Then his gaze looked towards the center of the sea of trees, where 2 pillars of light had already lit up. The Golden Rock Great Sage stood motionless in the center of the sea of trees. His eyes were slightly closed, as if he was resting. A beam of black light rushed out of the dense forest and landed in front of Golden Rock Great Sage. It was Qiongqi. He opened his mouth and spat out a black ball of light. An old woman in ochre was sitting cross-legged in the ball of light. Golden Rock Great Sage slowly opened his eyes and looked at the old woman in ochre. Lady Umbrella, long time no see. Lady Umbrella, who had transformed into an ochre-robed old woman, smiled and said, Golden Rock Great Sage, long time no see. Golden Rock Great Sage nodded his head lightly and looked at Xiongqi. Thank you. He was not completely being polite. There were many great demons in the undying demon soul realm who could kill Lady Umbrella. However, there were only a few who could capture her alive. Only Xiongqi's gifted remarkable ability, which could corrupt one's magical power and demonic power, could he withstand Lady Umbrella's poison and capture her alive. Lady Umbrella looked at the disc on the ground. Out of the 9 boxes, 7 were empty. The remaining 2 boxes emitted thick pillars of light that shot up into the sky. At the source of the pillars of light, 2 figures were trapped. One of them was Xingdo Dao Master, and the other was dressed in a white monk robe. He was sitting cross-legged with a madra, and his expression was calm but solemn. He was the primordial soul elder of the Tempest Temple, Monk Dade. Monk Dade sat in the center of perfection and was immobilized by the colorful pillars of light. His eyes were closed, and his hands formed madra. He kept chanting scriptures. Bright lights flashed on his body. After they lit up, they were quickly extinguished by the colorful pillars of light. However, they would soon light up again. Every time the lights lit up, Monk Dade's frail body would suddenly change into the appearance of a golden body Buddha. Beneath him, 8 peacocks were raised. He held a lotus in his right hand and a bell in his left. His expression was emotionless, and his whole body shone brightly with great power. When the lights disappeared, the golden body dissipated, and he became Monk Dade once again. At this time, the level of one's cultivation was completely revealed. There was no way to fake it. Xingdo Dao Master was immobilized by the pillars of light. He fell to the ground, looking dispirited and unable to manifest his primordial soul incarnation. Monk Dade still had room to struggle. He could manifest his golden body of Buddha, but he could only barely defend himself. He was still unable to stop the suppression of the pillars of light. Lady Umbrella sighed. Am I going to face this tribulation too? Golden Rock Great Sage said lightly, If Lady Umbrella is willing to serve me, you will not have to face this tribulation. Otherwise, you can go in and wait with me. After a moment of silence, Lady Umbrella said, I know what Golden Rock Great Sage wants. I wonder if the snow dew of fairy spirit can exchange for my life. Hearing the name of the snow dew of fairy spirit, Xiongqi's eyes lit up. The snow dew of fairy spirit was a treasure that could make the hearts of all primordial soul mighty figures race, not to mention an infinite region, even in the divine land of a human race. This was because the snow dew of fairy spirit was rumored to be of great help to primordial soul cultivators when they were breaking through to the next realm, greatly increasing the success rate of breaking through to the next realm. It had the same effect on great sages of the demon race who had cultivated the indestructible demon soul. In fact, it was even more effective than using it on humans. However, the snow dew of fairy spirit was extremely rare and had not appeared in the world for a long time. Xiongqi did not even care that Golden Rock Great Sage was beside him. He stared at Lady Umbrella and asked, You are a plant demon. Could it be that the snow dew of fairy spirit was born from the essence of your own dermic powers? Lady Umbrella did not speak, but her attitude clearly showed that she agreed. Xiongqi turned to look at Golden Rock Great Sage. He looked at Lady Umbrella calmly and said slowly, Even if I give you the snow dew of fairy spirit, I will not let you go back to Tianmei. Golden Rock Great Sage was already at the 3rd realm of the indestructible demon soul, so he did not need the snow dew of fairy spirit. However, the members of the Golden Rock race, as well as the experts of the demon race, could all use it. Xiongqi Great Sage was a typical example. He was about to reach the pinnacle of the 2nd realm of the indestructible demon soul. After some accumulation, he would be able to attack the 3rd realm of the indestructible demon soul. However, how difficult was it to reach the 3rd realm of the indestructible demon soul? Countless demons dreamed of it, but those who succeeded were few and far between. Even Xiongqi, great sage, who was extremely talented and had a strong foundation, did not have much confidence in reaching the third realm of the indestructible demon soul. It was very likely that it would be an illusion for the rest of his life. However, with the help of the snow dew of fairy spirit, the chances of success would be greatly increased. Golden Rock Great Sage did not mind the people under him getting stronger and stronger. He was worried that they would threaten his position in the future. This was because he was confident that he would become stronger and have the ability to control the experts under him. However, he could not let Lady Umbrella's snow dew of fairy spirit help the enchantress's subordinates to become stronger. This had nothing to do with the confidence of an expert. It was the most basic of all, to suppress, weaken, and attack one's enemies. Therefore, even if Golden Rock Great Sage did not throw Lady Umbrella into the sacred fire sacrificial rite, he would not let her go even if he captured her alive. Lady Umbrella clearly understood this. She nodded and said, "I only hope that I can use the snow dew of fairy spirit to save my life." She closed her eyes, and her appearance changed again. She did not look like a gorgeous lady in red, nor did she look like a middle-aged woman in white. Instead, she changed from an old lady in ochre to a young lady in a yellow dress. This young lady in yellow looked to be about 12 or 13 years old. She was not very beautiful, but she was full of youthful vigor. Lady Umbrella, who had changed her appearance, stood on the spot with her hands behind her back. She closed her eyes and did not move. Waves of fragrance emanated from her body. The fragrance was very faint and not very strong. However, it made one feel very comfortable. Even Golden Rock Great Sage, who had reached the third tier of the indestructible demon soul realm, could feel it. At his level, there were very few spiritual medicines that could be of use. Xiongqi even felt that just by taking a whiff of this fragrance, the faintly discernible door in his sea of consciousness had become clearer. She actually used her own body to form the snow dew of fairy spirit. So the source of the snow dew of fairy spirit is this demon's true form, a spiritual mushroom of heaven and earth. Xiongqi stared at Lady Umbrella. The demonic black light in his eyes flickered like an abyss. Silently, Lady Umbrella, who had transformed into a young lady in a yellow dress, stood on the spot. A snow-white water droplet the size of a thumb gradually formed on her forehead. It looked like a dewdrop. This was the famous sacred medicine of the great Tianyuan world, the snow dew of fairy spirit. After forming the snow dew of fairy spirit, the spiritual energy around Lady Umbrella immediately became thin. This was not because she had used up too much of her demon power, but because her essence had been depleted. The dewdrop left Lady Umbrella's forehead and floated towards Golden Rock Great Sage. She said slowly, "The snow dew of fairy spirit only forms once every 1,000 years. I hope Golden Rock Great Sage will forgive me." Golden Rock Great Sage looked at the snow dew of fairy spirit, but did not take it. With a thought, the snow-white dewdrop floated towards Xiongqi. Xiongqi's eyes flashed. He took the snow dew of fairy spirit without hesitation and nodded at Golden Rock Great Sage. "Thank you, Emperor Peng, for bestowing this treasure upon me. I'm going to continue hunting. I will definitely bring back all my prey so that Emperor Peng can offer sacrifices to me." He transformed into a black light and left the center of the forest. Golden Rock Great Sage looked at Lady Umbrella. "Lady Umbrella, are you still not willing to serve me?" Lady Umbrella changed from a young lady in a yellow dress back to an old lady in ochre robes. She sat on the branch of the ancient tree weakly with her legs crossed. She smiled and said, "Heavenly Charm Great Sage has taken care of me for thousands of years. I hope that Golden Rock Great Sage can fulfill this favor." She did not address Golden Rock as Emperor Peng, like Tianlin Golden Rock and Xiongqi Great Sage. This was equivalent to expressing her attitude. Golden Rock Great Sage did not force her and only nodded. "It's a pity." White light rose from the branches of the ancient tree and enveloped Lady Umbrella. This was considered as a temporary imprisonment. However, she was not thrown in the round plate like how Xing Do Dao Master and Monk Dade had treated her. In the distant sea of trees, Lin Feng, Long Yi, and Yin Mingyue were all looking at the pillar of light in the center of the sea of trees. Lin Feng slowly asked, "Since you are confident that the Golden Rock Great Sage will not use Lady Umbrella as a sacrifice, then there are not enough people. Could it be that the Golden Rock Great Sage wants to use his own subordinates as a sacrifice?" Long Yi shook her head slowly. "He won't do that." Chapter 455. Slowly, Long Yi said, "Golden Rock Great Sage is proud and arrogant. He will protect anyone who works for him and won't sacrifice them easily. In that case, what will he do?" Lin Feng looked at Yin Mingyue. Including Lin Feng himself, there were a total of 5 human cultivators who entered Cloud Forest World with him. Long Ye's group had a total of 3 demon race great sages. Other than that, there was also Monk Dade who was tricked here. Adding them all together, there were exactly 9. According to what Long Yi said, Golden Rock Great Sage had to sacrifice 9 strong practitioners of Primordial Spirit Realm or Undying Demon Soul Realm to obtain Yudu Minghua. There was a carrot and a hole here. If Golden Rock Great Sage let go of Lady Umbrella, who would fill up the empty spot? Furthermore, this was calculated according to the most ideal situation, which was that everyone had to fall into Golden Rock Great Sage's hands and be captured. Otherwise, the gap would be even bigger. Lin Feng pondered for a moment, and he gradually had an outline in his heart. Exactly how many people will enter Cloud Forest World isn't something Golden Rock Great Sage can predict. His method of closing the door and releasing the dogs can only lock up the first batch. The first batch that comes in is just a few. It all depends on luck. Next, we have to lock down Cloud Forest World. Otherwise, Yin Mingyue, Long Yi, and the rest can immediately bring in Taishu Temple, the Enchantress, and the rest. The only exception was Great Thunderclap Monastery's Monk Dade, but that should be a special situation and couldn't be used easily. On one hand, because of Monk Yuan Xiang, Monk Dade would take the bait so easily. They couldn't trick another Primordial Spirit Realm cultivator to come in a short time. On the other hand, after Golden Rock Great Sage refined and controlled the will of the medium-sized world, Lin Feng clearly felt that there was an instant when the power of the white light tree sea weakened. That should be when Golden Rock Great Sage opened a gap and Monk Dade came in. With so many strong practitioners eyeing covetously and trying to break in, this kind of thing was undoubtedly extremely risky. It was very easy to seize the chance to break open the Void Realm. Golden Rock Great Sage could stabilize at once, but he couldn't stabilize the world every time. So, including the old monk who came later, we happen to have 9 people. This should be a pleasant surprise for the Golden Rock. Lin Feng thought to himself, if that's the case, he must have prepared a plan to deal with the lack of manpower from the start. Lin Feng even suspected that even if there wasn't a single person, Golden Rock Great Sage would still be able to refine Yudu Minghua. It was just that the difficulty would be much higher. He would need to pay an unbearable price and an immeasurable amount of time. Hence, everyone entered the Cloud Forest World to send Cole in his hour of need. The Golden Rock Great Sage gladly accepted it. Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue looked at each other and saw that Yin Mingyue's eyes flashed with understanding. It was obvious that she had the same judgment. Long Yi looked at the two of them and smiled faintly. "The two of you, let's part ways here. I received Marshal Uncle's sound transmission and have to hurry over to meet up with him." Lin Feng's pupils slightly contracted. Strictly speaking, Long Yi is of the demon race. After all, there is an additional barrier between him and Yin Mingyue. But right now, everyone could still be considered to be sitting on the same boat. Why was she in such a hurry to get off the boat? Yin Mingyue gently tucked her hair behind her ear and looked at Long Yi. She said with a smile, "Oh, is Heavenly Wolf Great Sage nearby? If you don't mind, let's go together. Right now, our common enemy is Golden Rock Great Sage. If we split our strength, we will be weaker. If we work together, our chances of victory will be higher." Long Yi said with a smile. Forget it, big sister, Yin is so beautiful. My martial uncle won't be able to resist eating you. Lin Feng burst out laughing. Only now did he remember that no matter if it was in Heaven Wasteland Vast Land or the Divine Land, Heavenly Wolf Great Sage had a bad reputation. People often said pervert, pervert, and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage was known as the #1 pervert in Heaven Primordial World. His notorious reputation wasn't any weaker than his bloodthirsty reputation. Yin Mingyue took a look at Long Yi and also shook her head with a smile. Aren't you fine? That's because I have Master's protection. Otherwise, I would have long been eaten by Martial Uncle. Long Yi lightly raised her eyebrows. I don't know if I'll be able to return intact after coming out with Martial Uncle this time. The smile on Lin Feng's face disappeared. Silently staring at Long Yi, he suddenly said, There's no need to worry if I'm dead, right? Perhaps the Golden Rock Great Sage has a way to make up for the lack of people, but without a doubt, the fewer the people, the more difficult it is. Lin Feng said calmly, That old wolf has something that I very much agree with. Since the Golden Rock Great Sage needs people alive to make up the numbers, then if one of us dies, he'll have one less. Even though Lin Feng's expression was still as calm as the clouds and the wind, both Yin Mingyue and Long Yi could feel a faintly discernible but heart-chilling killing intent. Lin Feng wasn't joking. At this moment, he really had the intention to kill because Long Ye's behavior was very abnormal. Just as Yin Mingyue said, at this moment, both sides should join hands to fight against the common enemy, the Golden Rock Great Sage. If they were to part ways, or even have internal strife, then they should first deal with the threat of the Golden Rock Great Sage. Connecting this to Lady Umbrella's actions of practically giving them away for free, Lin Feng seriously suspected that Long Yi and the others were secretly carrying out an unknown plan. Even though Lin Feng believed that the target of their plan was the Golden Rock Great Sage, but after the plan succeeded, if they had the strength to spare, they would definitely take in Lin Feng and the others as well. Yin Mingyue looked at Lin Feng and Long Yi without saying a word. Silently, she stood beside Lin Feng, the two of them facing Long Yi together. Long Yi turned a blind eye to this and instead leisurely laughed lightly. That's right, Sect Leader Lin, I almost forgot to tell you something. This big sister, Yin, is most proficient in the way of the sword. In the entire Taishu Temple, her cultivation in the way of the sword is one of the best. Even that legendary genius Lin Daohan is inferior to her in the way of the sword. Killing intent flashed across Lin Feng's body. In the end, he still chose to avoid internal strife as much as possible. Long Ye's words just now contained too much information. If all of it was true, then the value of this piece of information could also make Lin Feng not attack. Take care, Sect Leader Lin. Take care, Big Sister Yin. We will meet again. Amidst the low and hoarse laughter, Long Ye's body floated backwards. Her entire person turned into a ball of blue light and gradually dissipated in the air, turning into blue dots of light and escaping. If Lin Feng gives up on attacking, Yin Mingyue naturally won't attack either. She and Long Yi know each other very well. One of them wholeheartedly wants to leave, the other can't stay on her own. Yin Mingyue turned her head to look at Lin Feng, saying with a slight smile, Long Yi flatters me. Mingyue's little bit of cultivation in the way of the sword is only superficial. Sect Leader Lin is a great grandmaster of the way of the sword. If you have free time in the future, please don't be stingy in giving Mingyue some pointers. Hearing this, Lin Feng said lightly, Fairy Yin is too polite. This seat doesn't deserve it. At this time, at the center of the sea of white light, another resplendent and thick golden pillar of light rose from the ground, charging straight into the sky and then gradually turning into multicolored light. In the center of the pillar of light, a bright flame burned fiercely. The third one. Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue looked at each other. Lin Feng slowly said, This seat wishes to make a trip to the center of the sea of trees. Fairy Yin can do as you please. Yin Mingyue's pair of eyes shimmered with light, the corners of her mouth revealing a hint of a smile. Does Sect Leader Lin mind if Mingyue comes along? Lin Feng said indifferently. Up to you. He took a step forward, flying towards the center of the sea of white light, where 3 pillars of light rose. Yin Mingwei followed by his side. As Lin Feng flew, his consciousness communicated with the jade capital mountain in his soul. After the sudden change in the cloudy forest realm, and the golden rock great sage refined and took control of the world's will, causing the situation to go out of control, Lin Feng temporarily cut off Jade Capital Mountain's connection with the outside world, so the people on Jade Capital Mountain did not know what happened after that. Zhu Yi and the others pacified the group of second-generation disciples, sending them back to cultivate on their own, but their few personal disciples still guarded the mountain. Lin Feng's soul made a projection on the mountain. Xiao Yin, Shi Tianhao, Zhu Yi, and Yu Hongyan hurriedly came up to greet. Master, your blessing has arrived. Lin Feng smiled at them when he saw them. Xiao Yin and the others could not help but be stunned, looking at each other, all scratching their heads in confusion. Lin Feng did not explain, clapping his palm lightly. The yin and yang life and death formation diagram, Kuan Peng Hall, Flame Dragon Heavenly Armor, and Wutong Tree Heart flew out respectively. The yin and yang life and death formation diagram turned into a small light spot, flying into the center of Zhu Yi's brows. Zhu Yi did not say much, standing on the spot without moving, silently deducing the formation diagram. He had a similar experience before, so it was much easier now, but the yin and yang life and death formation was too majestic. He still needed to spend all his attention. The size of the Kuan Peng Hall in the air kept shrinking, finally turning into the size of an ordinary human palace, landing on the ground in front of Shi Tianhao. Shi Tianhao went up the stairs, came to the door of the hall, and pushed it open. In the hall, Lin Feng's iron tree clone was looking at him with a smile. The Flame Dragon Heavenly Armor and the Wutong Tree Heart landed in front of Yu Hongyan and Xiao Yin respectively. Lin Feng said, "One of you has a low cultivation, and the other is injured. These 2 treasures are mainly for you to protect yourselves, and they can also be used as tools to retrieve treasures." When the Flame Dragon Heaven Armor was put on Yu Hongyan's body, its shape changed rapidly. It turned into a slim, feminine soft armor, which made Yu Hongyan look even more valiant and valiant. Yu Hongyan had not formed her gold core yet, so her current cultivation was not enough to activate the Flame Dragon Heavenly Armor. She mainly relied on the War God clone that Lin Feng had placed in the armor to activate it. When Xiao Yin put away the Wutong Tree Heart, he immediately felt the blazing and vigorous life force within it. He also noticed that there was a faint flame power jumping within it. It even caused the 3 great true fires in his body to stir. He did not dare to use his transcendence energy to examine it again, so he looked up at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Put it away and don't act rashly. When the time comes, this item will be of great help to you. The 2 of you follow Tianhao to the Kuan Peng Hall. When the time comes, the Kuan Peng Hall will send you to your destination. When it's time to retrieve the treasures, you can act separately." Lin Feng then looked at Shi Tianhao and Zhu Yi. "When the time is right, I will send you down Jade Capital Mountain. When the time comes, you will have to grasp the opportunity yourselves." After listening to Lin Feng's instructions, the disciples nodded in unison. "We will follow Master's orders." Shi Tianhao smiled and said, "Master, what good stuff is it this time?" Xiaoyan also said curiously, "Master, you said before that those who entered the cloud forest world this time are all essence soul cultivators. Even if we have treasures with us, how can we pull the teeth out of the tiger's mouth?" Lin Feng smiled. "You will know very soon." Chapter 456. Yu Hongyan looked at Xiao Yin and the other 2 and asked softly, "Master, 3rd senior brother and 5th junior brother are not on the mountain." Lin Feng smiled. "Don't worry, they will be there." He looked at Yu Hongyan, Xiao Yin, Shi Tianhao, and Zhu Yi and said with a smile, "However, whether you can obtain this opportunity depends on yourselves. When the time is right, Master will lend you a hand." The disciples nodded in agreement. The light projection projected by Lin Feng's spiritual sense flickered slightly, leaving Xiao Yin and the others, and arriving in the stone room of Miao Shihao's cave abode. As soon as they met, Lin Feng asked, "Who is the person with the highest sword cultivation in Taishu Temple?" When Miao Shihao saw Lin Feng, a lazy and joyful smile appeared on his face. Upon hearing Lin Feng's question, Brother Shihao's body suddenly straightened, and his expression became much more serious. After thinking carefully, he slowly said, "It should be the Grand Elder of Taishu Temple, Yin Yuanjin." Miao Shihao thought about it and added, "If there are other hidden people, or if someone is hiding their cultivation, then I can't be sure." Lin Feng repeated, "Yin Yuanjin?" Miao Shihao nodded. Yin Mingyue's master, one of the powerhouses of Taishu Temple, a third-tier primordial spirit transformation realm expert, and also the youngest Grand Elder of Taishu Temple. In the past, he competed with the Enchantress, but it is said that he lost by one move. Later, he returned to Taishu Temple and devoted himself to nurturing Yin Mingyue. Lin Feng pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, "Is she related to Mount Shu Sword Sect?" Miao Shihao shook his head. "I'm not sure about that. As far as I know, Yin Yuanjin and Yin Mingyue both cultivate the void yin-yang Dao of the Tai and void scriptures. The Mount Shu Sword Sect is completely based on sword techniques. The sword techniques of Yin Mingyue and her disciple are still based on the void yin-yang Dao. It is called the Great Void Double Pole Mystic Sword Technique, which is mysterious." Miao Shihao continued, "Other than that, the Taishu Temple also has a sword Dao that is built on the foundation of the supreme Wang Qing Dao. It is called the Sword of Wang Qing Dao." A disgusted expression appeared on Miao Shihao's face. He curled his lips and said, "Even though I, Brother Shihao, really hate that bunch of coarse people from the Taishu Temple, I have to admit that their Taishu Dao is indeed the best Dao in the vast land of the Divine Continent. It is all-encompassing and profound. The Sword Dao is not the specialty of the Taishu Temple. However, both the Great Void Double Pole Mystic Sword Technique and the Sword of Wang Qing Dao are superior to the 6 Meridian Swords of Mount Shu. I'm afraid that only the mountain treasure of Mount Shu, the heavenly immortal sword Qi, can surpass it." Lin Feng nodded. He had heard of the heavenly immortal sword Qi of Mount Shu. It was recognized as the strongest sword Dao in the Divine Land. It was the mountain treasure of Mount Shu, but it was extremely difficult to cultivate. Even a master of the 6 Meridian Swords could not master it. The Supreme Elder of Mount Shu, who had gone into seclusion, was not known, so he could not consider it for now. Other than that, in the public's opinion, only the leader of the Mount Shu Sword Sect had mastered the heavenly immortal sword Qi. Miao Shihao smiled strangely. The radicals in the Taishu Temple have always been thinking about the heavenly immortal sword Qi of Mount Shu. Lin Feng nodded, and his divine sense projection gradually dissipated. Miao Shihao lost his composure once again, reclining on the bed, the corners of his mouth revealing a light smile. Hee, since the sect head asked like this, then he must have some ideas. The Void Temple's coarse people are going to have a headache. Lin Feng's consciousness left Jade Capital Mountain. Turning his head slightly, he saw Yin Mingyue looking at him silently. Sect Master Lin seems to have a plan in mind? Yin Mingyue asked with a smile, gently tucking her hair behind her ear. Lin Feng said lightly, "I have some ideas, but it depends on how the situation develops. It's still too early to say that it's a plan." As he spoke, from the center of the sea of trees, 2 resplendent pillars of light suddenly shot out at once. They turned into colors in the air, and flames lit up in the pillars of light. Yin Mingyue murmured, "It's already 5 pillars of light." Lin Feng nodded silently and continued to fly toward the center of the sea of trees. The closer he got, the stronger the suppression of the dimensional zone of the cloudy forest realm. "It's fine here." Lin Feng stopped, silently looking at the 5 thick pillars of light in the center of the sea of trees. He could even vaguely see the phantom of a golden-winged rock beside the pillars of light, as if it was about to spread its wings and fly high. A voice suddenly echoed between heaven and earth. "Since you're here, why stop?" The tone of this voice was very calm, but was like thunder, surging in all directions, everywhere, resounding throughout the entire cloudy forest realm. Yin Mingyuel looked down at her feet and said softly, "If we take one more step forward, the Golden Rock Great Sage will be able to immediately lock onto our precise position. But now, he can only feel that we're nearing this boundary line." Lin Feng said indifferently, "Although he refined this side of the world and incarnated into the world's will, more of his energy is used to block the outside world from breaking through the cloudy forest realm. Under such pressure, his control and refinement is actually not perfect. Moreover, the dimensional realm is incomparably huge. He doesn't have the ability to completely fuse the entire world and make it his own body." Yin Mingwei looked at Lin Feng. "Is the development of the current situation in line with sect leader Lin's expectations?" Lin Feng was surprised. "Why ask when you already know the answer, Fairy Yin? Although I can see that Long Yi, the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, and Lady Umbrella are definitely plotting something, I don't know the specifics of the situation." Yin Mingyue said calmly. "King and Liang, Sword Venerable Guanchong, and Dao Venerable Xingdo have all lost contact with each other. They must have already fallen into the hands of the Golden Rock Great Sage." Lin Feng said calmly, "If I'm not wrong, the crux of their plan is probably on that Lady Umbrella." Hearing this, Yin Mingyue nodded slowly. Lady Umbrella has always been mysterious. Very few people know what kind of magical powers she has. If there are any variables, I think it will indeed be on that person. Lin Feng looked at the 5 light pillars in the distance and smiled. "I'm very interested in the Enchantress's plan." In the center of the sea of trees, the Golden Rock Great Sage stood motionless on the spot after finishing his sentence. Seeing that Lin Feng and Yin Mingwei did not reply, he did not pursue the matter and turned to look at the other side. There, the Heavenly Will Golden Rock, the Sea Dragon Hawk, and another Golden Winged Great Rock at the second tier of the Immortal Demon Soul Realm, as well as the Great Sage Qiangqi, for great demons stood side by side. In front of them, the white-clothed and barefooted Long Yi stood calmly. Slowly, the Golden Rock Great Sage said, "In my memory, you should be the last Longhuan Jade Tree in a vast, infinite wasteland." Long Yi smiled and said, "Not the last one, but the other Longhuan Jade Trees have not become demons." The Golden Rock Great Sage nodded. "Through that wolf, I already know that I can't get the book of mixed origin demon scripture from you. Since that's the case, there's no need to say anything more." He used his dermic powers to pick up Long Yi and threw her directly into the disc below, taking up a grid. There, in addition to Zen Master Dade and Dao Master Xingdo, Shi Zongyue, Sword Venerable Guanchong, and the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage were also imprisoned by the light pillars. Compared to Zen Master Dade and Dao Master Xingdo, the 3 of them were much more relaxed under the imprisonment of the light pillars, but they could not escape. Shi Zongyue and Sword Venerable Guanchong were experts at the second tier of the primordial soul realm. They cultivated the top techniques of the 5 Emperors' True Dragon Scripture and the Guanchong Sword, so they were very powerful. The Heavenly Wolf Great Sage also cultivated the book of mixed origin demon scripture and reached the second tier of the immortal demon soul realm. Their strength was outstanding among those of the same realm. But they were all alone, and the Golden Rock Great Sage had 4 great demons at the second tier of the immortal demon soul realm attacking him at the same time. The Great Sage Qiangqi had mastered the 9 glory sky shattering formation. In other places, there was still the possibility of fighting to the death or perishing together. But in the sea of white light trees, he was suppressed by the domain power and could only be humiliated and captured. Shi Zongyue was even more depressed, especially when he saw the mocking smile on the Great Sage Qiangqi's face. The Qiangqi demon clan had never been on good terms with the Great Qin dynasty. It was not the first time that Shi Zongyue had fought with the Great Sage Qiangqi. Except for the time when he was caught off guard by the 9 glory sky-shattering formation on the North Wind Sea, he had never suffered such a big loss. Sword Venerable Guan Chong sat in the light pillar with cold eyes and a layer of frost on his face. Golden Rock Tianluan looked at him and said indifferently, "If Sword Venerable Guan Chong was here, with his magical power, he could probably break through the suppression of the domain power like the master of the celestial sect and fly away at will. But your Guan Chong sword does not have such an effect." Sword Venerable Guan Chong did not refute, nor did he bluff. He just stared coldly at Golden Rock Tianluan and the other great demons. Golden Rock Tianluan looked at him calmly and said, "Today, it is your turn to suffer. But you should feel honored to be able to contribute to the great cause of our emperor." In a box next to Sword Venerable Guan Chong, a tall man in a black velvet cloak sneered and said, "What a joke. Does Lei Yuan deserve to be called an emperor?" Golden Rock Tianluan looked at the tall man expressionlessly and said, "Kill prison. Don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, you will be the biggest joke." The tall man's eyes were bloodshot. It was the great sage of Celestial Wolf. He opened his mouth, revealing a row of white teeth, and said with a hideous smile, "Lei Yuan has reached the 3rd realm of the immortal demon soul. It is indeed extraordinary, but he is far inferior to my senior sister. My senior sister has not become an emperor, so what qualifications does he have?" Silently, Golden Rock Tianluan said, "Time will prove everything. Just like you have always been arrogant and arrogant. Did you ever think that this day would come?" He, great sage of Celestial Wolf, sneered and said, "The 9 glory sky-shattering formation is really a good thing. So many powerful treasures are needed to set up the formation. Even if old Xiongqi sold all his possessions, he still couldn't afford it. I guess it must be the golden-winged rock tribe that provided a lot of help. Even I dare to fight Lei Yuan in front of me, let alone you guys." Great Sage of Celestial Wolf stared at Golden Rock Tianluan and said, "If it wasn't for the 9 glory sky-shattering formation, I could easily beat the 4 of you. Tianluan, how do you think you survived just now?" Golden Rock Tianluan looked at his right wing, where a large part of the golden feather was missing. It was the wound left by Great Sage of Celestial Wolf. With the suppression of the domain, the 4 demons couldn't suppress Great Sage of Celestial Wolf. In the end, they had to rely on the 9 glory sky-shattering formation to suppress him. "Kill prison. You are indeed very strong." Golden Rock Tianluan nodded and said, "But this can't change your final fate." During the conversation, Long Yu was also sent down the disk by Great Sage of Celestial Wolf tribe. She occupied a grid and was soon imprisoned by the golden light. The 6th light pillar soared into the sky. Shi Zong Yue, Dao Master Xing Do, and the others all looked serious. Long Yi and Great Sage of Celestial Wolf tribe looked at each other, but the corners of their mouths revealed an imperceptible smile. Chapter 457. Golden Rock Great Sage looked at the 6 pillars of light in front of him and the 6 balls of flames within them. Then he looked at Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage in the disk below. Finally, his gaze fell on Lady Umbrella, who was imprisoned by the ancient tree branches. Lady Umbrella still looked like an old lady in ochre clothes. She looked worriedly at Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, who were trapped by the pillars of light. Golden Rock Great Sage looked up at the world shrouded by the sea of white trees. His gaze seemed to pass through the endless void. Outside the cloudy forest realm, a group of experts was watching this sealed medium-class world with hostility. Through the void, Golden Rock Great Sage could see a mass of Emperor's Qi. Its purple-gold radiance flickered continuously. It was heavy, vigorous, domineering, and majestic, as if it carried the weight of the country and looked down upon the world. On the other side, there was a similarly golden figure of light circling around. There was a faint sound of a dragon's roar. Within the golden figure of light, there were flowing lights of white, green, black, red, and yellow. They rotated continuously and interacted with each other. Compared to the magnificence of the previous two, the floating ancient sword in the dark void was much more inconspicuous. It was only 3 feet long and looked ordinary. There was only a faintly discernible sword aimed at the cloudy forest realm from afar. It was like a bow drawn, but not fired. However, it made Golden Rock Great Sage feel as if there was a blade on his back. On the other side of the ancient sword, there was a white cloud that was faintly discernible in the void turbulence. Within the cloud, there was a pair of eyes silently watching the cloudy forest realm. The pair of eyes contained extremely rich emotions. They were filled with longing and love for all life in the world. They were filled with warmth, kindness, and joy. Tao was emotionless, but emotionless. The owner of this pair of eyes had clearly deduced the concept of supreme oblivion to an extremely high realm. Golden Rock Great Sage knew that they were the projections of the experts of the Zhou dynasty, the Qin dynasty, the Mount Shu Sword sect, and the Taishu Temple. Their powers were tightly locked onto the cloudy forest realm to prevent the cloudy forest realm from disappearing into the void turbulence. Although the Golden Rock Great Sage had isolated them from entering, Yin Mingyue and the others had already established a connection previously, pointing out the path for the powerhouses of their respective factions. The cloudy forest realm was not like Jade Capital Mountain, which could move freely. It was located in the void and moved along with the void turbulence. Its movements were rhythmic, so the Golden Rock Great Sage was unable to shake off the pursuit of these powerhouses and had to face the impact of their power from time to time. At this rate, before long, the Cloud Forest Realm's domain power would be broken through. Apart from the human race's group of powerhouses, there was still one more person outside the Cloud Forest world, sticking closely to the realm domain's power, ready to enter at any time. It was an illusory figure that seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog. Her appearance could not be seen clearly, but Golden Rock Great Sage knew that it was the Enchantress. The Golden Rock Great Sage and the Enchantress looked at each other from afar, separated by the power of boundaries. After a glance, the Golden Rock Great Sage withdrew his gaze. He looked at the disc in front of him and let out a loud and resonant cry. A large number of profound runes condensed in the air. 3 people are missing, but it doesn't matter. As the Golden Rock Great Sage let out a long cry, 3 resplendent runes suddenly lit up on his forehead. Every rune was incomparably profound and contained extremely powerful power. Starlight and afterglow surged on the runes, and every rune was like a star from the 9 heavens descending into the mortal world. The boundless power was like a celestial body, incomparably heavy. The entire cloudy forest realm was trembling. The power of the realm rubbed against these runes nonstop, and space shattered continuously. The gaze of Lady Umbrella, who was trapped in the white light, flickered slightly, and she muttered, "So that's how it is. If there aren't enough strong practitioners as sacrifices, Thunder Abyss Golden Rock will have to sacrifice the stars he has refined as a substitute. However, in this way, he can also guarantee that the Yudu Ming flower that he cultivates will be completely under his control. With the Yudu Ming flower, even if he loses some power of the stars, the gains will be far greater than the effort. When the demon race cultivated and attained the first realm of the undying demon soul, their lifespan would be endless, and their demon soul would be powerful. If they succeeded in condensing the primordial true spirit, they could advance to the second realm of the undying demon soul. With the primordial true spirit as the foundation, they could refine the stars in the sky and guide the power of the stars into their bodies, making their power stronger and stronger. When a star was completely refined, the great sage of the demon race would try to guide the star in the sky and fuse it with his undying demon soul. If he succeeded, the stars and soul would fuse as one, and he would successfully advance to the third realm of the undying demon soul. Only when he succeeded in refining a star and fused it with his demon soul would he have the remaining power to refine more stars. Golden Rock Great Sage was no doubt a great demon of the third realm of the undying demon soul, but to sacrifice the Yudu Ming flower, and directly throw out 3 stars. It was truly a huge move. It astonished everyone present. There was a difference in the quality of power between stars, so it didn't mean that the more stars one refined, the more invincible one was. It also depended on what star was refined. However, these 3 stars were clearly not Golden Rock Great Sage's limit. Heavenly Wolf Great Sage was silent. Long he took a look at him and thought to himself, even though he can't be mentioned in the same breath as Master, Senior Uncle isn't a match for Golden Rock. Golden Rock Great Sage released the stars he had refined, and they landed in the round plate below, immediately occupying the remaining 3 empty spaces. The round plate trembled, and 3 thick pillars of light rushed into the sky. Together with the 6 pillars of light from before, there were a total of 9 pillars of light flashing with colorful lights. It was a magnificent sight to see. They rose from the center of the sea of white light, and in each pillar of light, there was a ball of flames burning fiercely. Golden Rock Great Sage chanted ancient incantations continuously. Those weren't the syllables of the golden-winged Great Pung race, but a mysterious incantation of unknown origin. A desolate, ancient, and overbearing concept of power instantly filled the entire cloud forest world. That powerful aura spread out, and everyone in the surroundings instantly had the urge to bow down. Great Sage Cheongchi, Golden Rock Heavenly Wheel, and the rest of the great demons were slightly astonished, and their eyes revealed a fervent glow. They calmed down and steadied their minds, but they also felt that their hearts were in turmoil, and they couldn't be suppressed. And the other great sages of the demon race, with the undying demon soul realm, lowered their heads one after another, revealing a look of submission. Even the other 2 Qiankis under Great Sage Cheongchi, who had cultivated the undying demon soul, were no exception. Shi Zhongyue and the others, who were fixed in place by the pillars of light, all had a look of pain on their faces. The pillars of light that enveloped them became more and more dazzling, and each pillar began to become thicker and thicker until they were tightly pressed together and then began to fuse with each other. In the end, the 9 pillars of light merged into one, turning into a thick pillar of light with a diameter of 100 miles, occupying the entire area of the round plate and penetrating a side of the world. At the edge of the center of the sea of trees, Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue watched the scene in front of them silently. Yin Mingyue said, "There's no need to gather enough people. Golden Rock Great Sage also has a way to start the ceremony, but I'm sure he'll have to pay a huge price." Lin Feng's brows gradually furrowed. Why is he in such a hurry to start the ceremony instead of coming to find us? He controls the medium-class world. Although it's only a matter of time before the outside world breaks through, the power of the domain is still very stable at this moment, and he still has a lot of time. Yin Mingyue thought for a moment and said, "Perhaps the plan of Long Yi and the others has been launched, and some changes that we don't know have occurred, forcing Golden Rock Great Sage to start ahead of time." Lin Feng was silent, his eyes fixed on the huge pillar of light. He saw that there was a ball of flame in the pillar of light, and at this time, it began to gather towards the center and then condensed into a large, dazzling flame, burning fiercely. But this flame did not give people a feeling of warmth at all. Instead, it made people shudder with fear, and they felt cold all over. Their intuition told them that a great disaster was about to befall them. The color of the flame, at the beginning, was crimson, and now gradually changed to purple, full of ominous omens. Lin Feng watched the flame burning fiercely in the sky, and then slowly descended, falling in the direction of the source of the pillar of light. "It's almost time," Lin Feng calculated in his heart, and his body flashed, flying towards the center of the sea of trees. Yin Mingyue glanced at Lin Feng, but did not speak. Golden Rock Great Sage had started the sacred fire sacrificial rite ceremony. The ceremony could not be interrupted once it started, otherwise it would lead to failure on the verge of success. But the ceremony had not progressed to the most critical juncture. Just looking at how Goldenrock Great Sage could still maintain the power of spatial boundaries, it could be seen that he still had strength to spare while presiding over the ceremony. At the final juncture of the ceremony, Goldenrock Great Sage would definitely put all his energy into the ceremony. At that time, his control over the cloudy forest world would also sharply decline, and the outer realm powerhouses would charge in one after another. That would be the best time to make a move. Both Lin Feng and Yin Mingwei understood this logic, but not only did Lin Feng choose to set off towards the center of the Sea of Trees now, even Yin Mingwei also followed, traveling with Lin Feng. In the center of the Sea of Trees, in the disk in front of Goldenrock Great Sage, the blazing flame kept descending within the light waves, until it finally fell into the groove in the center of the disk. Around the flame, Long Yi, Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, Shi Zongyue, and the others sat around, each of them revealing a pained expression. Boom, 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 boom. Huge vibrations came from within the purple flame, the sound getting louder and louder. Violent power surged, causing the entire sea of trees of white light to boil. Countless rune markings danced in the flame, illuminating the void, branding every inch of space, causing the space to tremble nonstop. Countless runes also appeared all over Goldenrock Great Sage's body, densely forming a golden glow, resonating with the purple flame. With a sizzling sound, the purple flame seemed to burn through the void, gradually turning into a black hole. The flame became lesser and lesser, while the black hole became larger and larger. A dark purple light suddenly shot out from the black hole, shrouded in mist and suffused with divine light. There was only a tiny wisp of purple light, and it didn't look blazing, but that incomparably terrifying aura instantly swept across the world. The entire cloudy forest world was trembling. This time, not only the demon race powerhouses at the first level of the undying demon soul realm, even Great Sage Qiongqi and the other great demons at the second level of the undying demon soul realm felt trembling and fear, the depths of their souls shivering. That was a kind of innate suppression, making them unable to raise their heads. It was just a wisp of light, but everyone didn't dare to look straight at it, as if the supreme ruler of heaven and earth had descended upon the mortal world. Chapter 458. The area of the black hole in the center of the disk continued to shrink, and more light was being emitted from the black hole. In the beginning, it was only a tiny wisp, but later on, it turned into a vast expanse of purple light. Rays of divine light were being emitted, and the originally extremely terrifying power aura became even more shocking. In the 9 squares around the black hole, the complexions of Long Night, Shi Zongyue, and the others became worse and worse. Shi Zongyue, Sword Venerable Guanchong, and the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage also appeared extremely weak at this moment. Long Yi directly transformed back into the original true form of the Jade Tree of Longhuan. Buddhist Monk Dade was also completely unable to manifest the Buddhist golden body, and the most miserable star, Dao Venerable, was already at his last gasp. Although it was extremely weak, not only Long Yi and the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage who were already aware of it, even Shi Zongyue and the other human experts had already recognized its origins when they saw the purple light emitted from the black hole in the center of the disk. Purple light surged out in large amounts, dazzling and resplendent, shaking the entire cloud forest world. Terrifying energy undulations even spread out to the outside world, intimidating the myriad worlds in the heavens. Sword Venerable Guan Chong looked at the purple light, and his expression was unprecedentedly ugly. Yuta Minghua, his seniority in the Mount Shu Sword sect was extremely high. Even in the entire Divine Land, he was a cultivator of the older generation. He had personally participated in the war that brought about the catastrophe of the races, and had even witnessed the final battle at the Great Thunderclap Monastery. With Sword Saint Guan Chan's cultivation at that time, he could only stay far away from the center of the battlefield and fight with other Demon Clan experts on the periphery, not daring to approach the center of the battlefield. It was a battle that only mighty experts at the third firmament essence soul realm could participate in. For those below the third firmament essence soul realm, it was a land of death. Whoever dared to take a step and would immediately perish. But even so, Sword Venerable Guanchong could sense the terrifying power of the Yu Wang celestial sea when it tore apart the 9 heavens and 10 earths. He had once seen the demon race's sacred emperor execute the great divine art of Yudu Dark Flower and directly pierce through the power of the realm of the divine land. He had truly shattered half of the sky, and it was a performance that was like a miracle. Honorable Swordsman Guan Chong could clearly see that after the terrifying purple light tore through the void, it rampaged through the void turbulence, shattering countless spaces. It seemed as if there was no end to it. He even saw a dimensional realm being torn apart by that purple light. It was that strike that, with an incomparably terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and the earth, killed the sect leader of Mount Shu Sword Sect, whom Honorable Swordsman Guanchong had always regarded as invincible. At that time, he was the strongest swordsman in the Divine Land. At the same time, it also shook Honorable Swordsman Guanchong's belief. Over 4,000 years had passed. Yu Wang had fallen, and the Yudu race had vanished without a trace. The first volume of the heavenly Tao demon scripture was lost, and there was no new Saint Emperor of the demon race appearing in Heaven Wasteland. There was also no more Yuda Minghua. After the battle at the Great Thunderclap Monastery, this powerful divine art became a masterpiece. In the memory of Sword Venerable Guanchong, it gradually faded. However, when he saw Yudu Minghua appear in front of him again, only then did Sword Venerable Guanchong realize that this smear of purple radiance had long become his nightmare. He had never truly forgotten about it. Shi Zongyue's gaze was also incomparably solemn. He stared at the demonic purple light in the black hole that was growing stronger and stronger. Yuda Minghua, it really is Yuda Minghua. This kind of power, there's no mistaking it. In the past, Shi Zongyue was only a Yuanian cultivator. He was far inferior to Sword Venerable Guanchong and didn't have the right to participate in the battle at the Great Thunderclap Monastery. He could only watch the battle from afar under the protection of his elders, treating it as an opportunity to gain experience. However, the Yuda Minghua, that was like a divine punishment from the heavens, a calamity of creation, slashing the heavens above and the netherworld below. The powerful might of killing strong practitioners was deeply engraved in everyone's heart. Even now, Shi Zongyue was no longer the Yuanian cultivator from the past. He had formed his primordial spirit and cultivated to the second level of the primordial spirit realm. However, when he faced the domineering purple light again, he still felt astonished. Even though the purple light in front of him couldn't be compared to the power of the Yu Huang celestial sea that tore apart the creation of the Great Thousand in the past, and compared to the Yudu Minghua back then, this could only be considered a budding state. The appearance of this terrifying great divine art was enough to frighten everyone. Even the extremely weak monk Master Dade and Star Dipper Tao Venerable stared at the purple light with their eyes wide open. They weren't able to come into contact with the calamitous race war back then, but they had heard of the name Yudu Minghua and knew what kind of terrifying power it represented. Heavenly Wolf Great Sage stared at the Yudu Minghua that was in the midst of being born, and incomparably complicated emotions appeared in his blood-red eyes. Greed, envy, desire, fear, and longing were all intertwined together. His throat muttered, "Old Woman Umbrella, it's time to make your move. Otherwise, we will be sucked clean and really become a living sacrifice." Long Ye's gaze moved away from the Yudu Minghua and landed on Golden Rock Great Sage. She didn't say anything. Golden Rock Great Sage's body was covered in densely packed runes and curses, and they flashed with dazzling radiance. They resonated with the Yudu Minghua in the center of the disk. Even when Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue were getting closer and closer to him, he didn't care about them. Lin Feng and Yin Mingwei had already reached the edge of the center of the sea of trees, and they felt the terrifying waves of power from the purple divine light. They were both astonished. Yin Mingwei took a deep breath. It really is the Yudu Minghua, Thunder Abyss Golden Rock has succeeded. Lin Feng was silent. He suddenly lowered his head to look at the branches and leaves of the ancient tree under his feet. He stared at them without blinking. When he saw something, his pupils contracted abruptly. As expected, they have made their move. Yin Mingyue's gaze landed on the same place as Lin Feng's. As expected, the variable has landed on Lady Umbrella. On the branches of the ancient tree that were flashing with white light, there was a place that had already turned dark brown. That brown color had covered up the white light, and it was as though there was a bald spot on the branches. It was also as though a person had grown a patch of psoriasis on their skin. Looking closely, one would realize that there was actually a patch of ochre-brown mushrooms growing on the branches. These big mushrooms looked very ordinary. They didn't have a lot of spirit chi fluctuations, and they didn't have any ferocious changes. They were just ordinary brown mushrooms. However, these mushrooms directly wiped out the white light on the branches of the ancient tree. Lin Feng raised his eyes to look and saw that in the sea of trees, there were more and more ochre-brown patches. At first, they looked like small dots, but they soon became patches of brown spots. In the end, these brown spots connected together and actually drowned out the entire sea of trees. The white light dimmed, and the sea of trees became a brown ocean. All the branches of the ancient trees were covered with ochre-brown mushrooms. In the center of the sea of trees, an extremely huge mushroom rose from the ground. It extended out from the dense foliage of the cloud forest trees. The mushroom canopy covered the sky, as though it was a huge piece of land. The handle of the canopy was also extremely thick, even thicker than a single cloud forest tree. Lin Feng looked at this scene and came to a realization. So that's how it is. This is the true strength of Lady Umbrella. Lady Umbrella was a mushroom-type demon. Her umbrella-shaped appearance was actually formed by the aggregation of countless spores. In a short period of time in the cloud forest world, Lady Umbrella had already dispersed the spores that contained her own demon power. They spread through the air and quickly covered the entire cloud forest world. Now, with a thought, these countless spores immediately turned into ochre-brown mushrooms. They were like clones of Lady Umbrella. This could really be said to have thousands of clones. And with the help of these clones, Lady Umbrella was actually fighting with the Golden Rock Great Sage for the control of the cloud forest world. She was only at the first tier of the undying demon soul realm, and she had not even condensed her primordial true spirit. She was actually fighting with the Golden Rock Great Sage, who was at the third tier of the undying demon soul realm, for the control of the cloud forest world. Anyone who heard of this would find it unbelievable. But Lady Umbrella was indeed doing so. What was unbelievable was that it seemed to be very effective. This is this demon's final trump card, and also her strongest innate mystique, Yin Mingyue said softly. I'm afraid she is the only one in the entire heaven primordial world who can refine the will of a medium-sized world with just the first tier of the undying demon soul realm. No wonder she, who has always been in seclusion, was sent here by the enchantress this time. The demon race was different from the human race. They had different innate talents. When they were successful in their cultivation, they would often develop many innate mystiques according to the characteristics of their race. For example, the Taotai races devour the heavens and devour the earth. Some innate mystiques did not have much battle power, but they had their own unique uses. According to the time and place of use, and under the right circumstances, they could display nature-defying uses that far exceeded the level of an individual's realm. Lady Umbrella was like this now. Although her battle power was not strong, she could fight with the Golden Rock Great Sage for the control of the medium-sized world's will. Lin Feng stared at the giant mushroom. Just by herself, she might be able to occupy a small kiliocosm for a short period of time. However, it would be difficult for her to control a medium-sized world. She has to thank the Golden Rock Great Sage for using a dozen of cloud forest trees to form a formation to provide her with abundant spiritual energy. In the end, she took the opportunity to offer herself to the Buddha. Apart from that, she also has the help of the enchantress. At the top of the giant mushroom, there was a ball of colorful radiance that emitted a mysterious and vast power. The waves of demonic power were exactly the same as when Long Yi had used the Book of Primordial Demon, but it was more profound and powerful. That was a bit of primordial true spirit that the enchantress had hidden in Lady Umbrella's demon soul. If he had hidden it in his doppelganger, it would have been discovered by the Golden Rock Great Sage. However, if it was just a bit of primordial true spirit, it would not be a problem. Her cultivation was originally above the Golden Rock Great Sage's. With a bit of primordial true spirit hidden in the depths of Lady Umbrella's demon soul, she could hide from the Golden Rock Great Sage's eyes and ears. Now that this bit of primordial true spirit was activated, it had successfully given Lady Umbrella the confidence to fight with the Golden Rock Great Sage for the control of the Cloudy Forest world. She did not need to completely seize control of the Cloudy Forest world. She just needed to create trouble for the Golden Rock Great Sage, and the Golden Rock Great Sage's control over the Cloudy Forest world would rapidly decline. As a result, the power of the sealed world's boundaries would immediately weaken. The enchantress, who had been waiting outside, immediately made use of this opportunity to break through. Under the Golden Rock Great Sage's subordinates, the Golden Rock of Heavenly Wheel, Sea Dragonhawk, and other great demons, including the Great Sage Cheonchi, were all furious. They pounced towards the giant mushroom that Lady Umbrella had transformed into. However, at this moment, the primordial true spirit of the enchantress hidden in the demon souls of the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage and Long Yi in the disc on the ground burst forth. They actually wanted to break free from the restraints of the disc's light pillar and interrupt the process of the sacred fire sacrificial rite. In an instant, the backyard of the Golden Rock Great Sage was on fire. A moment ago, he was still in high spirits, about to let the ancient and world-shattering great divine art of Yudu Minghua see the light of day once again. Now, he was immediately faced with internal and external troubles, swaying like a storm. The Golden Rock Great Sage raised his eyes to look at the void and saw the power of the boundaries gradually collapsing. The figure of the enchantress became clearer and clearer. Looking at this scene, a demonic golden light flashed in the pair of cold eyes of the huge golden rock. There was no trace of panic or anger, only colder and colder. Chapter 459. Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage had both revealed their true forms. The former transformed into a towering tree. Its trunk was as white as jade, and its leaves were a demonic blue color that flickered with a ghostly glow. The latter transformed into a huge black wolf that was the size of a mountain. Its crimson eyes were like two blood ponds and abysses. In the depths of their demon souls, there was a ball of extraordinarily colorful radiance. That was the primordial true spirit planted by the enchantress, which helped them break free from the restraints of the disc. No matter if it was Long Yi or Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, they didn't hurry to escape after breaking free. They stayed where they were and relied on the enchantress's primordial true spirit to refine the Yudu dark flower that had just been born in the center of the disc. Shi Zongyue and the rest stared with their eyes wide open at the sudden change in front of them. The enchantress's appetite was truly extraordinary. Other than wanting to control Cloud Forest Realm, he also wanted to snatch away the Yudu dark flower that Golden Rock Great Sage had painstakingly refined. The primordial true spirits in the demon souls of Long Yi, Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, and Lady Umbrella burst forth at this moment. In the sky of Cloud Forest Realm, a figure gradually condensed and officially broke through the power of the boundary to barge in. That figure was blurry, as though it was a primitive and ignorant universe. It was the head of the 10 saints of the demon race, The Enchantress. The Enchantress broke through the power of the boundary to enter Cloud Forest realm, but she wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Instead, with a jolt of her demon power, she stirred the edges of the void on the periphery of the dimensional world into chaos, sealing Cloud Forest realm once again. After she took the initiative to break through the power of the boundary, she immediately repaired the power of the boundary to stop the strong practitioners of Taishu Temple and the rest of the human race from entering. Golden Rock Great Sage looked at her coldly and didn't say a word. The sacred fire sacrifice was still ongoing, and the Yudu Dark Flower was becoming more and more dazzling. Silently, the Enchantress's voice rang out, and just like Long Yi, it was both hoarse and low. Thunder Abyss, such a big move. Let me lend you a hand. She landed on the huge brown mushroom that Lady Umbrella had transformed into, and the mushroom suddenly trembled. The dozen cloud forest trees that Golden Rock Great Sage had formed turned into a huge tree with white light, filling the entire world. At this moment, the world had transformed into a brown mushroom sea, and the mushrooms grew all over the branches of the cloud forest trees. Under the control of the heavenly Enchantress Great Sage, Lady Umbrella's demonic powers surged, and she forcefully pulled the 3 cloud forest trees out of the world. The Cloudwood world fiercely warped, the giant tree trunks below that pierced into the void shrunk. The 3 Cloudwood trees separated from the other ancient trees that gathered together, rapidly shrinking in size, returning to the appearance when Lin Feng and the others first entered the Cloudwood world. This scene was seen by Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue, and their gazes flickered. Lin Feng saw the Enchantress grabbing, and boundless demonic power instantly transformed into a terrifying huge hand to grab the 3 cloud forest trees that were like heavenly pillars. Lin Feng had seen this hand once before, and it was this terrifying hand that had severely injured Golden Crow Great Sage, causing that great demon to die in the Divine Land. Back then, Lin Feng had been astonished, and seeing it again today, it was still as powerful as before. The 3 cloud forest trees were all covered with mushrooms at that moment. Heavenly Charm Great Sage made a grabbing motion, and the mushrooms on 2 of the cloud forest trees vanished. She threw them directly at the round disc that was currently nurturing the Yudaming flowers. The 2 cloud forest trees transformed into resplendent light and were injected into the bodies of Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage. The 2 demons instantly seemed to have eaten a huge tonic, and their powers surged. The souls and life force that had been sacrificed by the sacred fire sacrifice were all recovered, and there was still some left. The remaining power was further provided to the sacred fire sacrifice. When Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue saw this, they couldn't help being speechless. Golden Rock Great Sage, sacrificing the stars that he had refined to carry out the ritual, was no doubt to strengthen his control over Yudu Minghua. It was also to save these cloud forest trees so that he could bring them back to Heaven Wasteland. The Enchantress didn't care at all, and she just swept up the cloud forest trees and burned them as firewood. The mushroom on the remaining cloud forest tree didn't fall, but it transformed into flowing light and was absorbed by Lady Umbrella. Her demonic aura became thicker and stronger. Shi Zongyue soared Venerable Guanchong, and the rest had gloomy expressions. The appearance of the Enchantress was good news to Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, but it was useless to them. No matter if it was Golden Rock Great Sage or the Enchantress, they all treated these strong practitioners of the human race as sacrifices to refine the Yudu Dark Flower. Once the Enchantress appeared, Golden Rock, Great Sage Qiongqi, and the rest of the great demons didn't dare to pounce on Lady Umbrella anymore. All of them retreated. Golden Rock Great Sage looked at the Enchantress with a pair of cold black and gold eyes. His gaze then landed on Lady Umbrella, who was at her feet. Slowly, he said, "Lady Umbrella, so this is where you're truly powerful. I've always been thinking how you would help the Heavenly Enchantress enter, but I didn't expect you to have such an innate divine art." Lady Umbrella's calm voice rang out. "I still have to thank Golden Rock Great Sage for showing mercy. I'm truly ashamed. Goldenrock Great Sage shook his head. It's a pity that you aren't willing to serve me. The enchantress also didn't look at Goldenrock Great Sage. Her gaze landed on Great Sage Qiongqi, and she smiled. Evil Pool is the nine glory sky crumbling formation diagram with you or with Thunder Abyss? Great Sage Qiongqi grinned. It's with me. The enchantress nodded. And if I ask you to hand it over, you definitely won't hand it over. In that case, I can only take it myself. After she said that, she raised her hand, and the terrifying hand that seemed to be able to crush stars appeared again. It pierced through space and grabbed towards Great Sage Qiongqi. Great Sage Qiongqi roared strangely. Good move. He opened his mouth, and a black light spot flew out. It rapidly enlarged in the sky and transformed into an incomparably huge formation. In the formation, countless runes and runes overlapped and intersected with each other. Profound principles and concepts emerged from within. A terrifying concept that wanted to collapse heaven and earth and destroy the 1,000 worlds spread out in all directions, shaking the entire cloud forest realm. It didn't let Yudu Minghua take the lead. A huge hole tore open in the sky, revealing the pitch-black universe. There were countless stars twinkling in the universe, and the most eye-catching ones were the 9 stars. They were clearly far away from the boundless space of Cloud Forest Realm, but at that moment, they seemed to be right in front of their eyes. Among the 9 stars, 7 were incomparably dazzling, while the remaining 2 were faintly discernible. They looked dim and were like 2 shadows, but they similarly gave off terrifying energy waves. Sun, moon, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, 7 elements. In addition to the 2 concealed stars, Rahu and Jidu, there were the 9 luminaries of the stars in the sky. The second tier of the undying demon soul, the primordial true spirit realm. The great sage of the demon race would sacrifice the stars and guide the power of the stars into his body. According to the different stars he chose, the power would also have a huge difference. However, very few people would choose to sacrifice the 9 luminaries. That was because the power of the 9 luminaries was too immense and endless. The great sage of the demon race that sacrificed the 9 luminaries would have outstanding battle prowess in the primordial true spirit realm, but he couldn't fuse the 9 luminaries with his demon soul. It was practically cutting off the hope of advancing to the 3rd tier of the undying demon soul, the realm of stars and souls as one. And now, Great Sage Qiongqi was using the 9 luminaries' heaven-shattering formation to guide the majestic power of the 9 luminaries in the sky. The materials he used to set up the formation this time were much stronger than what he had used in Beifeng High, so the power of the formation had also risen accordingly. Even if he had to face the enchantress, he would still dare to fight. Within the formation, 9 balls of light slowly floated up and down, each corresponding to the 9 luminaries' star in the sky. Great Sage Qiongqi activated the power of the 9 luminaries' heaven-shattering formation, and one of the 9 luminaries in the sky, the gold luminary star, suddenly lit up. The center of the formation shot out a brilliant and majestic platinum-colored pillar of light. It was like a divine sword that could split the heavens and split the earth, and it stabbed towards the enchantress's palm. Lin Feng was watching from afar, but he could also feel a sharp aura rushing towards him, as if it wanted to cut him into pieces. Looking closely, he could see that in the platinum-colored pillar of light, there were countless layers of complicated formations stacked together. Every formation gathered countless sharp metal essence chi, and they were like indestructible sword lights. This platinum-colored pillar of light was extremely condensed. Everywhere it passed, the void in front of it shattered, revealing a pitch-black area, and ghosts and gods had to avoid it. The first strike of the 9 luminaries' heaven-shattering formation draws upon the power of the gold luminary star of the 9 luminaries. It's best at killing. It's no wonder it was able to shatter the array formation that the great Qin dynasty had set up in the North Wind Sea with a single strike. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The current 9 luminaries heaven-shattering formation has already surpassed the strength of a peak second-tier essence soul realm expert. It can fight against a third-tier essence soul realm expert. Although that was what he said, the enchantress was truly ferocious. His terrifying giant hand grabbed the platinum-colored pillar of light like a person grabbing a sharp blade with his bare hands. The violent force directly crushed the space. When the platinum-colored pillar of light was grabbed by the enchantress, it immediately distorted and dimmed. It was like a peerless divine sword had been forcefully twisted into a twisted piece of scrap metal. However, the enchantress was not in a good state either. The giant hand formed from demonic power was lacerated by the power of the gold luminary star in the platinum-colored pillar of light. It was nearly shattered. Back when she had fought Golden Crow Great Sage, he had been sent flying by her palm. Her own palm had been injured by Golden Crow Great Sage's Sun True Fire, and it was as if it had been scalded by a flame. But now it was riddled with wounds. If it had been a real corporeal body, it would have been a bloody mess. Great Sage Qiongqi could be proud of himself for achieving such a result, but he couldn't feel happy at all. His expression was extremely grim, because the enchantress was going up against the 9 luminaries heaven-shattering formation and the majestic power of the gold luminary star in the sky. Lin Feng, who was watching from the side, frowned slightly when he saw this. Then, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Golden Rock is indeed not easy to deal with. Ever since the appearance of the heavenly charm Great Sage, Golden Rock Great Sage had remained calm and continued to refine the Yudu Ming Hua as per usual. It was as if he didn't mind that the heavenly charm Great Sage had suddenly interfered and that half a day of his hard work might have gone to the enemy. Ever since the enchantress had appeared, she didn't pay attention to Golden Rock Great Sage. It was as if she was certain that the other party would obediently continue refining the Yudu Ming Hua. When she grabbed the platinum-colored pillar of light, she suddenly stopped. It wasn't because she was afraid of the 9 luminaries heaven-shattering formation. Instead, she suddenly turned her head to look at Golden Rock Great Sage. Golden Rock Great Sage's gaze was also looking at her. His gaze was cold, and with a flap of his wings, the cloud forest world shook violently. Chapter 460. Golden Rock Great Sage flapped his wings, and the remaining dozen ancient trees that formed the cloud forest started to twist violently. The ancient trees were filled with the mushrooms formed by Lady Umbrella's demon power. These mushrooms wanted to suppress the movement of the cloud forest trees together. However, even though Golden Rock Great Sage's absolute control over the will of the world was disrupted by her, he still had a lot of control. No matter if it was Golden Rock Great Sage or Lady Umbrella with the help of the enchantress, no one would be able to take the lead in this tug of war. However, if one of them completely undermined the other, there was no stopping it. Furthermore, the formation of the cloud forest trees was laid down by Golden Rock Great Sage. Now that he wanted to destroy the formation, Lady Umbrella couldn't stop him. The enchantress suddenly turned to look at Golden Rock Great Sage, but he didn't stop him. Instead, he placed his attention on the disc that was refining the Yudu Ming Hua. Has the sacrificial refinement succeeded? Lin Feng and Yin Mingyue also looked at the disc that was shrouded by the radiance. In the black hole in the center of the disc, purple divine light flickered faintly. The terrifying aura gradually calmed down and was no longer shocking. This wasn't Golden Rock Great Sage's sacrificial refinement failing. On the contrary, he had succeeded. That purple divine light was precisely the overbearing divine art that Yuhuang Celestial Sea had used to dominate heaven's aeon, Yudu Minghua. After the sacrificial refinement was complete, the divine item would conceal itself and retract its aura. Only when it was used would it burst forth with the terrifying might that could look down on the world. Yin Mingyue stared at the Yudu Minghua for a moment before slowly saying, "So I see. Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage's rebellion was all part of Golden Rock Great Sage's plan." Activating the sacrificial ceremony in advance without gathering 9 people was also part of the plan. He gave up the 3 stars that he had refined to ensure his control over the Yudu Minghua. From the start, he wanted to borrow the power of the enchantress to refine the Yudu Minghua together. Looks like Golden Rock Great Sage wasn't completely confident in refining the Yudu Minghua alone. From the start, he planned to borrow the demon power of the enchantress. Lin Feng nodded and said, "The enchantress's primordial chaos demon cannon is the spell that has the closest relationship with Yudu Minghua among all the spells in Heaven Wasteland. This extremely horrifying demonic light is like it was successfully refined by the combined efforts of 2 great demons." Yen Mingyue's gaze moved between the enchantress and the Golden Rock Great Sage. Therefore, when the Golden Rock Great Sage saw that the enchantress broke through the sealing power of the bounded domain and barged in, he did not panic at all. This was originally part of his plan. He purposely left Lady Umbrella behind to give the enchantress a key to enter the cloudy forest world. The enchantress should have also realized this point, but she chose to beat him at his own game. She placed Yudu Minghua as the most important and refined this exceptional divine art first before anything else. After coming in, she didn't disturb the Golden Rock Great Sage's refinement, and instead went to find trouble with Qiongqi. Lin Feng gently narrowed his eyes. Now that the refinement is successful, Golden Rock Great Sage has taken control of the Yudu Minghua, but the enchantress has also obtained a portion of the control. The 2 of them are now going to fight it out. The refinement of the Yudu Minghua was successful, and other than Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, who had the Cloud Forest Tree to replenish their energy, Shi Zongyue and the rest of the human cultivators had greenish-gray faces. Their essence, qi, and spirit were ruined, and they were like candles in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. Their primordial spirits were all severely damaged, and they were almost at the end of their lives. They were on the verge of extinction. The purple light gradually sank into the black hole in the center of the disk, and when the enchantress saw this sight, she stretched her hand out and pulled at the void beside her. Instantly, she tore open a crack in space. In the crack, numerous extremely terrifying waves of demon power came out, and they were all strong demon practitioners under the enchantress. The ones with the lowest cultivation had already formed an undying demon soul, and there was no lack of demon sages of the primordial true spirit realm among them. Golden Rock Great Sage didn't summon the other generals from his hometown in vast continent of Heaven Wasteland. If they were to really compare family assets, he was still slightly inferior to the enchantress. Therefore, he continued to vibrate his demon power to destroy the formation that was laid down by the Cloud Forest Tree. The thick tree trunks of the Cloud Forest Tree continued to extend downwards as though they were going deep into the boundless void. When these dozens of thick tree trunks reached the bottom, the space warped, and they were like dozens of thick pillars of light. They gathered together as though they came from the same root system. And now, because of the actions of the Golden Rock Great Sage, these tree trunks began to disintegrate, and one by one, they were no longer coiled together and pulled themselves out of the void. The size of the Cloud Forest Tree also began to shrink rapidly, and it was about to return to its original size. Looking down, the void was warped, and the red wasteland that Lin Feng and the rest first entered the medium-class world reappeared in front of them. The seal of the Cloud Forest world was completely lifted. Lady Umbrella wanted to use her own mystique to completely refine the medium-class world, and thus help the enchantress continue to seal the Cloud Forest world, but it was already too late. The Golden Rock Great Sage wasn't willing to play with the enchantress alone, so he directly flipped the original table. To the human experts of the Taishu Temple, the Great Zhou Dynasty, and the rest who were waiting outside, as long as there was a slight gap in the boundary power of the Cloud Forest world, they could immediately break in. After all, Lady Umbrella wasn't an expert at the 3rd tier of the undying demon soul, the realm of astral soul as one. Before she could completely refine the medium-class world, The people outside had already rushed in, and the situation was completely chaotic. And right at this moment, Lin Feng suddenly moved. His target was those dozens of huge cloud forest trees, and he directly swooped down. There, Lady Umbrella was currently trying to refine the huge trees, making the cloud forest trees form a formation again. However, Lin Feng wouldn't give her that chance. His entire body surged with cold and clear light, and a shrill and violent sword cry rang out. Everywhere the clear light passed by, the mushrooms that covered the tree trunks were shattered into fine powder, and they had no choice but to retreat, not daring to stop Lin Feng. Go! With Lin Feng's shout, Shi Tianhao, Zhu Yi, Xiao Yin, and Yu Hongyan had already driven Kun Peng Hall out, and they flew towards the cloud forest trees together. In the void above everyone's head, a few terrifying auras came over, and the strong practitioners of the human race who were waiting outside all rushed into the cloud forest world at this moment. Yudu Minghua, 9 lights heaven-shattering formation, and cloud forest trees. To these top-notch practitioners, only these 3 things could pique their interest and cause them to fight over them. The Enchantress and Golden Rock Great Sage were already fighting for the control of Yudu Minghua, and Lin Feng grasped this chance in that instant. Taking advantage of the time when the other big shots were breaking through the world, he immediately made his move, taking the initiative to gain the upper hand. The door of Kun Peng Hall opened, and Zhu Yi, Xiao Yin, and Yu Hongyan all rushed out. They landed on the closest 3 cloud forest trees. Xiao Yin held the Wutong tree heart in his hand and stuck it on the trunk of the cloud forest tree. Compared to the huge cloud forest tree, the Wutong tree heart was as small as a speck of dust. But at this moment, the Wutong tree heart suddenly burst forth with powerful energy, and boundless blazing spirit energy poured into the trunk of the cloud forest tree. Looking from afar, the place where both sides came into contact instantly became fiery red. Scarlet light spread in all directions continuously, and soon it covered the entire cloud forest tree. Even the leaves were dyed scarlet. Yu Hongyan, who was wrapped by flame dragon heavenly armor, stretched out her hands like 2 dragon claws to grab onto the tree trunk and shake it forcefully. It looked like a comical scene of an ant try to shake a tree, but the magic power of flame dragon heavenly armor burst forth, and the huge cloud forest tree actually trembled for a moment. This was still because Yu Hongyan's cultivation was too low. If she was in her Yuaniing period, she would have directly uprooted the cloud forest tree while wearing flame dragon heavenly armor. Shi Tianhao and Zhu Yi, on the other hand, were much more relaxed. One of them activated Kun Peng Palace, and the other activated Yin and Yang Life and Death Formation. They directly swept up 1 cloud forest tree each. The greenish-black palace and the huge formation were like 2 huge beasts that instantly swallowed the cloud forest tree. On the other side, Xiao Yin and Yu Hongyan had already shaken the foundation of the cloud forest tree in front of them. Shi Tianhao and Zhu Yi rushed over and helped them uproot the cloud forest tree and put it away as well. Time was tight, and Lin Feng did not stand on ceremony. After he pushed the sword back into the sword case, he pointed at his glabella, and endless purple gas appeared. Up, up, up. Lin Feng waved his hand, and a huge amount of cyclic purple gas immediately condensed into an extremely huge palm. Like grabbing a wooden stick, it directly uprooted the 3 cloud forest trees. There were a total of 18 cloud forest trees. Previously, the Enchantress uprooted 3 of them and gave them to Long Yi, the Heavenly Wolf Great Sage, and Lady Umbrella respectively. In the end, there were only 15 left. Now, Lin Feng and the other disciples worked together and uprooted 7 of them at once, instantly taking almost half. But in such a short time, the sky cracked, and the many experts guarding outside had already rushed in. The moment they arrived, they saw the actions of Lin Feng and the others clearly. Put it down. A few loud shouts sounded at the same time, and a vigorous power shook the entire dimensional realm. The red clouds burned, and in the boundless golden light, a vague shadow appeared, but its appearance could not be seen clearly. One could only feel the heavy, vigorous, domineering, and dignified aura, as if it carried the weight of the country and looked down on the world. That boundless golden light smashed towards the heads of Lin Feng and his disciple. But what was even faster than the golden light was a wisp of sword chi. The sword chi was minute and almost imperceptible. It was like a gentle breeze, but it was such a simple sword chi that was no inferior to the powerful strike that the nine lights heaven collapsing formation had drawn upon the boundless power of the gold glory Venus in the sky. That sword chi seemed to be born from chaos before heaven and earth had been created. It wanted to split the chaos apart with one sword, splitting heaven and earth apart and building a world. Meanwhile, the enchantress and golden rock great sage, who were fighting for Yuta Minghua, couldn't tolerate Lin Feng uprooting so many cloud forest trees at once. The two of them fought endlessly, but they each sent out a wisp of demon power to attack Lin Feng. The enchantress immediately raised a dark and gloomy ball of light and used his own demon power to condense a small world. He then destroyed the small world and struck out a ray of light. It was none other than Heaven Chaos, primordial Nirvana demon light. Golden Rock Great Sage's speed was even faster. In terms of speed, even the enchantress couldn't be compared to him. A golden tail feather fell from his body and transformed into golden light that vanished into the air. In an instant, he was already in front of Lin Feng, shooting through space, extreme speed through space, and incorporating the concept of the power of time. Even if the opponent was a primordial spirit realm cultivator, distorting space wouldn't be able to stop him. Breaking through the void to escape also wouldn't be able to avoid this attack that surpassed the concept of speed. In an instant, thousands of powerful attacks came at him, but Lin Feng's expression was still calm. Everything was within his expectations. First, he used Kun Peng Hall to store all four of his disciples, then used the last bit of time to pull out another cloud forest tree. At the same time, Jade Capital Mountain in his spirit's soul trembled violently. At that moment, Golden Rock Great Sage's attack was the first to arrive, and it was already right in front of him. Chapter 461. Mount Shu Sword Sect, Great Zhou Dynasty, the Enchantress, Golden Rock Sage. The powerhouses of the four forces attacked at the same time, wanting to kill Lin Feng and stop him from taking the Cloud Forest Tree. The Cloud Forest Tree was a variant of the ginseng fruit tree, the most mysterious and rare of the four great spiritual plants in the world. Although the Cloud Forest immortal fruit it produced was not as miraculous as the ginseng fruit, it was still a first-class immortal fruit, greatly beneficial to cultivators. Even one fruit was invaluable. Moreover, each of the cloud forest trees in this cloud forest realm had a lifespan of 10,000 years and had accumulated a vast amount of spiritual qi. The essence of the entire dimensional realm was here. Long Yi, Heavenly Wolf Sage, and Lady Umbrella had each absorbed the spiritual qi essence of a cloud forest tree with the help of the enchantress, but they had not actually digested it. It was just temporarily stored in their bodies and needed to be slowly digested in the future. These three demon race great sages were all talented and powerful, but it was not easy to digest such a huge amount of power. Long Yi and Heavenly Wolf Sage were almost sacrificed, but with the spiritual qi of the cloud forest tree, they immediately became lively. And now there were a total of 15 cloud forest trees left. Lin Feng led the disciples and uprooted 7 of them at once. Facing a group of berserk powerhouses, Lin Feng still had the mind to uproot one more. 8 of the 15 were uprooted, and more than half of the cloud forest trees fell into Xianmin Tianzong's hands. Lin Feng suddenly became the target of public criticism. Destructive attacks came at him from all directions. For a moment, Lin Feng seemed to have become a small boat in the raging waves, as if one wave could sink him. Golden Rock Sage's attack arrived first. The fast golden light pierced through space and arrived in front of him. Even if Lin Feng steered Jade Jing Mountain into the void, he would not have enough time. Lin Feng's expression was calm, but Jade Jing Mountain and his spirit shook violently. Clouds of purple gas wrapped Lin Feng, and within the purple gas, the heavenly gate opened above Lin Feng's head. Jade Jing Mountain slowly appeared in the clear light. The white, jade-like mountain suddenly changed color, becoming transparent and pure like colored glass. Inside the colorless mountain, countless images flashed. The images kept changing, bizarre and colorful. Boundless space, boundless worlds, and boundless life forms were all displayed here. There were many similar life forms, but they were experiencing completely different fates. The blue sea turns into mulberry fields in the blink of an eye. 1,000 years have passed in the blink of an eye. The mysterious will of power circulated around Lin Feng. Faced with Golden Rock Great Sage's attack, the Enchantress and the other experts' fierce attacks, Lin Feng's body suddenly retreated, broke through space, and entered the dark void. The Golden Rock Sage's feathers, the Heavenly Enchantress Sage's heavenly primordial nirvanic light of chaos, the terrifying sword Chi that could split the heavens and earth, and the glowing golden silhouette with a majestic aura, all followed closely behind. The divine senses of these experts followed their magical powers into the void, but they soon discovered that something was wrong. The scene in front of them changed, and countless stars flashed. They seemed to be right in front of them, but in fact they were far away. In an instant, they disappeared without a trace, as if time was passing quickly. Countless light and shadow images flashed in front of them, and every image was of Lin Feng. It was a dazzling sight. People like the Heavenly Enchantress Great Sage and the others could tell at a glance that these weren't illusions, phantoms, or clones. Each image was the real Lin Feng, but only for a moment was it real. Time, the change of a moment. Golden Rock Sage's cold eyes flashed. He knew that the thousands of images in front of him actually represented the many possibilities of the change of time in a moment. Every one of them was real, but only for a moment. In the next moment, what was originally real might become fake. This was not a natural phenomenon, but a change that Lin Feng had displayed through the mysterious power of Mount Yujing. When he escaped into the void, he not only broke open the space passageway, but also used the mystery of time to create countless passageways. Time was the longest eternity and the shortest moment. Only by comprehending these two extreme changes could one be considered to have comprehended the mystery of time. However, how many people could truly comprehend eternity and instant? In the past, when Lin Feng activated Mount Yujing, he mainly used the spatial power of the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree, and Mount Yujing itself actually contained the mysterious power of time. As Lin Feng's current cultivation level became higher and higher, his connection with Yujing Mountain, the cyclic violet Qi, and the mystic Heaven Treasure Tree became closer and closer. He also finally had a deeper understanding of the mysteries of time in Yujing Mountain itself, and was able to activate the powerful and profound power within. When this magical power was displayed, it changed 60 times in the blink of an eye, and the possibilities were endless. Experts like the Enchantress and the others also had a deep or shallow understanding of the mystery of the power of time. If it were just a simple instantaneous change, it still wouldn't be able to stop them, and they would chase him to death. But this time, Lin Feng also activated the spatial power of the mysterious Heaven Treasure Tree. The combination of space and time, Lin Feng's own spirit, and the creation of the cyclic purple Qi combined. The four fused together, and it was as if a brand new world with thousands of possibilities had evolved. The myriad changes of this brand new world were all displayed in an instant, causing the attacks of the Enchantress and the others to miss. The experts all felt a chill in their hearts. Each of them had the ability to penetrate the heavens and the earth, and under their joint attack, Lin Feng was actually able to dodge it. This magical power made them all a little more cautious. This is the master of the Mystic Gate? Extraordinary indeed. When Lin Feng reappeared in the void again, he was already far away from the battlefield in the center of Cloud Forest Realm. After missing their attack, the Enchantress and the rest couldn't be bothered to continue chasing after Lin Feng. Yuda Ming Hua, 9 Lights heaven-shattering formation, and the remaining few Cloud Forest trees were still there, and they couldn't afford to be distracted. Lin Feng looked at the center of the battlefield on the side of the Cloud Forest trees. Their indescribable violent powers had started to clash, and they fought until the heavens fell and the earth cracked. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. He let out a soft sigh. That was close. The exhaustion just now was much greater than controlling Jade Capital Mountain to crash. It was even greater than the total exhaustion of 10 consecutive crashes. It was equivalent to bursting out all of my power in an instant, and I almost couldn't hold on. Jade Capital Mountain, the cyclic purple chi, and mysterious heaven treasure tree could all hold on, but the exhaustion of Lin Feng's own spirit was too great. Time, the transformation of all things, space, and soul were 4 in 1. If one side was exhausted too much, it would cause the balance of the whole to collapse. Lin Feng looked at the battlefield from afar and smiled. All right, let's start to look for the second chance to cut in. How could the others not know that Lin Feng was waiting for a chance? However, the situation was complicated and every chance was fleeting. They couldn't afford to hesitate. The strong practitioners revealed their true appearances in the sky, and the clouds in the sky rolled back and forth. The vital chi that filled the sky condensed into form, and layers of the void transformed into a robe that condensed into the appearance of a middle-aged man. There was a white cloud embroidered on the bottom of the robe. This middle-aged man looked ordinary, and only a pair of eyes was eye-catching. They contained incomparably rich emotions, as though they contained all the emotions of the world and all the living beings in them. When the Enchantress saw this middle-aged man, he smiled. Xianlin, it's been a long time. Xianlin Taoist, a member of Taishu Temple's Grand Elders Guild. He had been famous for 10,000 years, and he was a strong practitioner on the 3rd level of Primordial Spirit Realm. He had personally participated in the war between the 2 worlds back then. After he appeared, he didn't say a word. He just rushed towards Yudu Ming Hua that the Enchantress and Golden Rock Great Sage were fighting over. The Enchantress smiled. As he fought for control of Yudu Ming Hua with Golden Rock Great Sage, he flipped his palm, and a lump of air that was blurry and looked like a primeval universe that had yet to be born appeared in his palm. Xianlin Taoist immediately stopped, and that pair of eyes that contained thousands of emotions flashed. Little origin embryo concealing secret curse. The lump of air on the Enchantress's palm didn't dissipate, and it flew towards Xianlin Taoist. It looked light and powerless, but in reality, it was as heavy as the entire world. Everything around the lump of air was being sucked in continuously. Under the nourishment of the spirit chi of all things, the primeval universe in a lump of air was rapidly transforming. However, its true target was Xianlin Taoist. If he was swallowed in, the development of this primeval universe would immediately reverse, and it would return to the primeval state before vanishing into nothingness. Even Xianlin Taoist, who was on the 3rd level of Primordial Spirit Realm, didn't dare to take the risk and be swallowed by the lump of air. His left eye suddenly burst forth with fierce brilliance, and a transparent precious jade that had a surface of a prism flew out. Countless rays of brilliance refracted and instantly covered Xianlin Taoist in thousands of layers of space. These layers of space fell together like mirrors, and in every mirror there was the existence of Xianlin Taoist. Illusions and reality coexisted, and there were endless changes. The eyes of Lin Feng, who was watching the battle from afar, lit up slightly. The magic treasure that Xianlin Taoist had taken out didn't simply execute space divine arts. It also fused the true meaning of the instant and fleeting moment of time into it. It was similar to the effect that Lin Feng had produced when he had activated Jade Capital Mountain. Xianlin Taoist used the 1,000-prism flowing light mirror to seal the enchantress's little chaotic embryo concealment mantra. He had already landed in front of the round disc that contained the Yudu Minghua. Golden Rock Great Sage glanced at him coldly and slightly flapped his wings. Golden light flashed again, transcending the limits of space to shoot out with extreme speed. A round light spot appeared on Xianlin Taoist's forehead, and it was like a small round mirror. This round mirror shone brightly like the sun shining on all things. Taishu Temple's spell, Great Void Heaven Reflecting Treasure Mirror Technique. The mirror light was like a gaze, and it contained a myriad of emotions: sorrow, pity, love, joy, anger, and hatred. They all looked at everything in front of them, and it was as if the happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy of tens of thousands of life forms in the entire world had gathered together and pressed down. In this will, there was a grand will that had no sorrow, no joy, no anger, and no resentment. It was tranquil and peaceful, yet it controlled everything and ruled over everything. Emotions and emotionlessness merged into one, and it was hard to distinguish them. It was as if the heavenly Tao was above, with boundless love, yet emotionless and desireless. It calmly looked at all living things. Being shown by the mirror light, Golden Rock Great Sage's extreme speed that transcended space also became sluggish. It was as if he was being watched by a heavenly eye, intimidated and restricted. He didn't dare to act recklessly. Back then, outside Sandcontinent City, Pang Jia had also used this spell to deal with Lin Feng. However, when the same spell was used by Pang Jia, it was completely different from when it was used by Xianlin Taoist. Lin Feng exclaimed in admiration when he saw it. Suddenly, his heart stirred, and he saw a beam of sword qi flying towards him from afar. It was the terrifying sword qi that had the power to split heaven and earth. The other party had actually abandoned Yudu Minghua, 9 glory heaven collapsing formation, and other treasures to chase after him. Chapter 462. Yudu Minghua, 9 glory heaven shattering formation, and the cloud forest tree were all abandoned to chase after Lin Feng wholeheartedly. After sensing the movement of the terrifying sword qi, Lin Feng burst out laughing. He really is a sword cultivator. The concept of power contained in the sword qi was extremely pure and unadorned. It wanted to pierce through all obstacles in front of it. It wasn't Xiaoshang sword artifact's ferocity and overbearing, not Guanchong sword artifact's simplicity and solemnity, not Xiaoyang sword artifact's gentleness, not Xiaozi sword artifact agility, not Great Yin sword artifact's flexibility, and not Li Fear sword artifact's ruthlessness and sharpness. However, as long as this sword qi changed slightly, it could transform into any path of the 6 Meridian sword artifact. It was like the combination of the 6 Meridian sword artifact and also their source. It contained the grand concept of power that could pierce through heaven and earth and could evolve into tens of thousands of sword Tao. It was the extreme sublimation of tens of thousands of swords into one, and it was also the starting point and source of the sword Tao in the world. It was the starting point and also the final destination. Just now at the cloud forest tree, the moment this streak of sword energy appeared, Lin Feng already knew its origins. The treasure of Mount Shu Sword Sect, the supreme Sword Tao, celestial heaven sword qi. Silently stood a middle-aged man in green in the sky of cloud forest world. His face was white and clean, but his facial features were ordinary. There was no sword will flowing out from his body at all, completely unlike the astonishing aura of great sword cultivators like Sword Venerable Guanchong. It was an ordinary sword that could be bought in any ordinary weapon shop in the secular world. The most ordinary fine iron sword was casually held in his hand, no matter how one looked at it. He looked like an ordinary person. There was only one exception. It was the ordinary long sword that seemed to be held casually in his hand. On the tip of the sword, there was an extremely fine brilliance that was almost undetectable by the human eye. Just this little bit. However, this faint brilliance on the tip of the sword far surpassed the world-shaking sword chi that swept 10,000 miles. This was a power that could tear apart heaven and earth condensed to the extreme, a bit of brilliance that could destroy everything. Lin Feng looked at this speck of light, his gaze slightly serious. He is certain that as long as this green-clothed middle-aged man is willing, he can completely hide even this speck of light and retract all of his mana and sword intent. However, just this speck of brilliance that was faintly revealed a strand of boundless grand Tao and a casual aura. It showed that this person's control of energy had already attained perfection. The current sect master of the Mount Shu Sword Sect was a third firmament essence soul realm sword cultivator, Xian Longsheng. He looked at Lin Feng calmly. As he pointed his sword will, an extremely terrifying immortal heavenly sword chi streaked across the sky, shattering the void as it chased after Lin Feng. Lin Feng could clearly sense that the ferocious sword in the huge sword box was roaring and restless inside the profound heaven-time light paradise. But he forcefully suppressed the restlessness of the ominous sword and did not unsheath it, because Lin Feng vaguely sensed that Xian Longsheng had come for this sword. In Xian Longsheng's eyes, this ominous sword was even more precious than Yudu Ming Hua, 9 glory heaven-shattering formation, and the cloud forest tree. After realizing this, Lin Feng's mind spun rapidly, and he thought of a possibility in a flash. He didn't draw his sword. Even though he had released the mechanism of the sword box, he still suppressed the ominous sword. Instead, the sword box was like a fierce beast that had opened its mouth and swallowed Xian Longsheng's incomparably terrifying immortal heavenly sword chi. Sharp and ear-piercing sword hums came from the sword box. Even the hums were like invisible sword chi slicing the void in the surroundings. Lin Feng could clearly sense that the ominous sword in the sword box seemed to be experiencing endless pain, yet was also incomparably excited and high-spirited. It was as though it was going through the harshest training, transforming and obtaining even greater power. If immortal heavenly sword chi was the source and end of all sword path intents, then this ominous sword was without a doubt an exception. The sword was the annihilation and massacre that surpassed immortal heavenly sword chi. It could destroy an era and slay creation. The immortal heavenly sword chi had contributed greatly to its maturation. This sword chi had sharpened the ominous sword more than it had suppressed the golden crow great sage for so long. The sword will of the ominous sword also pointed out another path for the immortal heavenly sword chi that was already infinitely close to perfection to continue advancing. Lin Feng suddenly raised his eyes to look at Xian Longsheng. At the same time, Xian Longsheng's gaze was no longer calm. It became as sharp as a sword as he stared straight at Lin Feng. The void between the two of them became blurry. At that moment, a violent collision of power traveled over. Amidst the boundless purple gold radiance, a palace hall and pavilion suddenly rushed out of the void, rushing towards the enchantress, Golden Rock Great Sage, and Xianlin Taoist who were fighting. That was the power of the great Zhou Empire. After its attack on Lin Feng had missed, it had hidden like Lin Feng. Now that it had found the right time to attack again, its target was Yudu Minghua. In a ball of majestic and overbearing purple-gold radiance, countless runes flew and spread out in all directions. It was as though it was the sun in the sky, filled with the majesty of a king. Under the shroud of the purple-gold radiance, there were palaces and pavilions that were like a city. Great halls, side halls, courtyards, tables, and tall buildings formed a palace that looked like the residence of an immortal king in heaven. Amidst the radiance, one could faintly see layers of light and shadows flashing. Billions of people bowed to the palace, and their will of obedience gathered together to bless the palace. Above the people, there were numerous sages and great scholars who also bowed to the palace. Countless essence chi gathered, representing the laws of heaven and earth and boundless laws. Between the palaces, numerous fairy maidservants transformed from light and shadow walked continuously, holding bejeweled nectar as though they were welcoming a prosperous era. The most eye-catching thing was that in the sky above the palaces, there were also numerous figures formed from light and shadow. They soared into the clouds and rode the mist, calling the wind and summoning the rain. It was as though 10,000 immortals had come to pay their respects. Everything formed an incomparably shocking scene. It was as though a true emperor of the celestial world had descended to the mortal world from the 9 heavens. On the central axis of the imperial city of the celestial dynasty, the most majestic and imposing Great Hall was located at the hub of the entire celestial city. In the Great Hall, a man dressed in a dragon robe sat silently on the dragon throne. It was Emperor Zhou Liangpan. At that moment, under the protection of the celestial city, Liangpan's aura was completely different. He was like the ruler of heaven and earth, a supreme human emperor. The Grand Imperial Palace was a super Dharma treasure refined from countless treasures after the great Zhou dynasty unearthed a primordial relic. This was the true reliance of the great Zhou dynasty in the great Thousand Worlds and the Divine Land. It was the foundation of the great Zhou dynasty's rise to power. In the battle of vanquishing Buddhism in the past, it forcibly killed the last abbot of the great Thunderclap Monastery, a Buddhist mighty figure at the primordial soul golden body realm. An epic legendary giant of the immortal Tao had been killed. SSSS, 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 SSSS. The essence chi of all directions went berserk, and the entire space turned into turbulence. The Grand Imperial Palace charged out, directly crushing the void and rushing into the battle of the Enchantress and the other two. Xianlin Taoist, right? I suddenly lit up. He actually took out another Dharma treasure, but it was a seemingly ordinary stone staircase. When Lin Feng saw this staircase, his pupils constricted slightly. He felt that the stone flute in his hand that he had obtained from Long Yi and that the Taishu Temple had been searching for suddenly reacted and was itching to move. Kong Nanhua had once stepped on a stone staircase that was related to that stone flute, and she was severely injured in the end. That stone staircase should be in existence without an owner, but there was no doubt that it was similar to the Dharma treasure that Xianlin Taoist had taken out. Maybe it was a different path that led to that mysterious place. Once the stone staircase appeared, it was as though it was the path to heaven. Xianlin Taoist took a step up, and he brought along a huge force that could overturn heaven and earth. He was about to bring away the round plate that contained the Yuta Minghua. The Enchantress had always been fighting with her demon power, and only at this moment did she finally reveal her true abilities. In the boundless primordial chaos, a palm that was as white as jade stretched out. Even though it was in the shape of a human, the demon power in it was incomparably violent. Different from the treasures that the primordial spirit almighty practitioners of the human race refined, to the great sages of the demon race, the strongest treasure was their true form. The Enchantress stretched out her hand to grab the round plate, and it was instantly fixed in the void. No matter how strong Xianlin Taoist divine arts were, or how mysterious the stone staircase was, it was hard for him to bring the round plate away. The Enchantress pulled back her hand, and the stone staircase trembled as though it was about to collapse. Xianlin Taoist stumbled and almost fell down. On the other side, the feathers on Golden Rock, great sage's body trembled, and a large amount of golden light shot through the air. He had already fought several rounds with Emperor Zhou's Liangpan's Grand Imperial Palace. In the sky above Grand Imperial Palace, purple gold light flashed and transformed into a green chaotic hole. From this green chaotic hole, balls of green air flew out one after another. In the balls of air, violent lightning roared and tore through the void to strike Golden Rock Great Sage. A cold glint flashed in Golden Rock Great Sage's black gold eyes. Chaotic hole, immortal slaying thunder. Legend had it that when the human emperor ruled the divine prefecture, even the primordial spirit almighty practitioners had to rush over to pay their respects. Anyone who disobeyed would be killed by the green lightning. Goldenrock Great Sage had a light rope formed by runes and curses hanging on his body. The other end of the light rope was connected to the Netherworld Flower Disc. He didn't give up on Yudu Netherworld Flower, so his movement was restricted. He couldn't use his extreme speed to dodge. Thus, he simply didn't dodge. The huge golden-winged rock spread his wings and soared into the sky. With a shrill cry, his two claws stretched out and transformed into two huge claws that covered the heaven and earth to crush all the chaotic whole, immortal, slaying thunder. In the main hall of Grand Imperial Palace, Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu couldn't help nodding when they saw this sight. This demon is truly fierce to be able to fight against the heavenly enchantress. However, now isn't the time to decide victory or defeat with him. The urgent matter now is Yudu Netherworld Flower. Grand Imperial Palace didn't stop at all. 10,000 yards of purple gold light suddenly gathered into a divine light that seemed to pierce through heaven and earth. Its power wasn't inferior to Yudu Netherworld Flower, and it was extremely terrifying. It smashed straight at the Netherworld Flower Disc. In the disc, the purple light of Yudu Netherworld Flower suddenly lit up, and an aura that could destroy heaven and earth spread out. Even if the opponent was at his peak state and he was still just budding, he still didn't hesitate to clash with the purple-gold divine light. The impact from the collision of the two divine lights directly shattered the entire disc. Lin Feng, who was far away, suddenly felt the heavenly scalpel golden bead he was carrying trembling. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.